Thank you. All right, the recording has begun. Holy crap. I almost blew that. Cats are lined up for treats. Dan the Noble. What's up, dude? Hello, Ambers. Will Rab, what's up? Yeah, but DM. Okay. Oh, you know what? We need to make like a distinction between a DMPC versus an NPC or a hireling. Like there's a difference between those things. Like in my mind, there's a huge difference between a DMPC and an NPC or a hireling, and there's a difference between like why a dungeon master typically would use those things. Oh yeah, I mean they steal the spotlight. They're OP. They take some of the loot and stuff. Yeah. They steal worthy kills of the party. Yep, that's part of stealing the spotlight and stuff. Yeah. Hey, Pacan. ¿Qué onda, hombre? ¿Cómo te va?
Me va muy bien. Estoy tomando café y tengo un gato ahí en el fondo jugando con el láser.
What is he doing? They're all running around back there. I need to have a fourth camera that points at my laser area where all my cats are running around right now. That's Squeaky. No, that's Mommy. That's Mommy running after it. It is the most hilarious thing to see Squeaky running after the laser pointer. He's so big. It's like kabogong, 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 running after the laser pointer. And then he's got like that fluff. You know how cats a lot of times have that pouch beneath their belly? I call it their fluff. His fluff will be like badunk, 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 badunk as he like runs back and forth. Oh yes, DMPCs have plot armor. Okay, they often have plot armor. Yep, the dungeon master, it's their PC. They love that bad boy. Okay. Bram has the fear of the penguin. You are a wise person, sir. I'm a little afraid of the penguin too. Oh yes, the DMPC knows all. That's a problem. That cuts into secrets and exploration. Yep, that's a problem too. If the dungeon master uses it. You bring cookies to soften the fear? Well, but we're afraid they're poisoned. A DM NPC that stays with the group as a story. See, in my mind, I draw a distinction between DMPCs and NPCs. There's a difference. I should probably like define that difference. It's a difference in my brain, at least when I think about those things. Yeah, you can't not metagame with a DMPC, but the truth is that as the dungeon master, you can always metagame if you want to, always, because you know everything. Oh yeah, there's yeah, I mean there's metagame risks. I got a new sticky note now. Now we're on to page 2. So obviously there's that. There's the railroading risk. I mean, if you use the DMPC to guide them certain places, the same risk exists if you have an NPC traveling with the party too. So you got to be careful with that. Dan the Noble says, I've never been mentioned in a stream. I feel special. Well, guess what, dude? You just got mentioned a second time. Yes, Paca, we have muchos gatos aquí. Muchos gatos atrás de aquí. Están corriendo. It's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, DMPCs act as a leash on the characters. Yeah, they can. Yeah, the railroading, that's part of the leash. They can. That's the problem. The DMPCs who just happen to be skilled at everything at level 3. And that's part of what I mean by stealing the spotlight and being overpowered. There's a tendency because the dungeon master can do that. Yeah. I'm behind in time. We were all talking about penguin butt being scary. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the root of a DMPC is that the DM wants to be a player, and they're trying to do both. They're trying to be both the dungeon master and a player. That's the root. That's usually the root cause, or the desire that causes the dungeon master to do that. Yeah. All right, Dan the Noble, see you, buddy. Number 3. Killer penguins. Oh, geez. We have some of those. We should probably start the stream now. I'm gonna get caught up on chat. Oh my gosh, I'm so behind on chat. Okay, we're gonna start now. Whee! It's time to start. Gotta get my coffee in the proper position. Can't start the stream without the coffee going. Yay! Bam! What's up? Okay, cool. We're gonna have a live stream tonight. We're gonna be answering questions. You ask questions, I give answers, that sort of thing. At some point, we're going to be ranting about DMPCs because somebody redeemed the rant. So I will be faithful and fulfill my promise to rant about it. So yeah, so let's just ask your questions, throw your questions down there. My moderators are grabbing them, putting them into a spreadsheet. I'll answer as many as I can. If you spam, they will chop your heads off. I discourage you from spamming. They love swinging swords. Don't spam. All right. So we have a few things we want to get through here before we jump into. The first thing that I want to do is give you a shameless plug for my Patreon, because I am now publishing a monthly PDF full of resources such as villains, NPCs, traps, encounters with maps, entire adventures. Every single month, my patrons are going to get this PDF. We are about ready to roll out the second volume of it right here in February. It's over 30 pages of stuff for dungeon masters to use in their games, and you can see on screen a whole bunch of the little images from the February PDF that's going to be rolling out. So lots of cool stuff there. We have homebrew, like these are all villains that you can use in your game with stat blocks that go along with them. And then here is one of the adventures here, and it has high quality maps designed for virtual tabletops. There's one of them right there. So lots of cool stuff in there. The idea here is that it's going to help reduce your prep time for games and possibly, hopefully, improve the quality of your games. So if you're interested in checking that stuff out, there's a link down below somewhere. One of my moderators will throw a link to my Patreon where you can check that stuff out. So there you go. Second thing I want to do here is I want to give a shout out to my awesome patrons who obviously get the PDF, but also help support everything else I do around here. I create free videos for folks. I create tons of free resources over on my site, thedmlayer.com. I publish free stuff over on DriveThruRPG. So I publish tons of free stuff for the community, and my patrons help support that because there are obviously costs and time involved with doing all that. And so my patrons help keep the lights on as far as that goes, which is good for the entire community because more free stuff means more folks get to use the free stuff. Yeah. So want to in particular give a shout out to these folks right here: Abby C, Beoban, Candy Sora, Clammed Oyster, Cockadoodle-Doo, DMO865, DM Silver, Drake H, Dresna, Ed R, Elisa Goose, Emmy, Float 71, Goliath Cleric, Iron Lord 79, Jake L, James L, John Kenny, Joe M, John H, Joseph H, Kezides, Kurt Y, Kiriako, Mr. T, Nathan Owen D, Paul B, Penguin Butt, published author, Radiance Guardians, Ron H, Brian Sakura, Simon, Shane C, Sophia W, Son of a Sofa Man, Tactical Tokens, Tim Black, Tony M, The Old DM, The Pickle, Theta Tag, 3Zool, Vincent, Yokai, and Watuza. And there are some folks who have recently signed up whose names aren't on here yet, and they should be. I just am behind, so I apologize, but I'm super, super appreciative. Thank you very much. All right, sweet. Now, next we're doing a giveaway tonight. So we are giving away some of these bad boys right here. So the giveaway is going to be Friday, but you can sign up tonight, and then I'm going to draw the winner on Friday. These are tactical tokens. These are super high quality alternatives to miniatures. So they're super high quality, like I just said. They're super portable, and what else? They're less expensive than like almost any minis you can get, unless you get like super cheap pieces of crap. So they're super high quality and far more inexpensive. They're more inexpensive than a miniature. So it's really cool crap. This is usually what I take to conventions with me, because I don't want to take all of my miniatures with me. And yeah, I love running combat on maps, like gridded, you know, tactical combat on graph paper and crap like that. Yeah, me speaka wella today. Anyway, this is the stuff I use at conventions. So anyway, we're going to be giving away 20 of these to one lucky person. And you can sign up tonight, and we will draw the winner at the end of Friday's live stream. So there you go. So sign up for that crap. You do need to put, the secret code is the name of one of my cats. That's all you got to put in there. So if you don't know the name of one of my cats, just ask somebody in chat. They will tell you. Will Rab says, Luke, we played about 6 sessions of the playtest. Oh, that's for my Kickstarter, Into the Fae. Link below. And what'd you say? We've played about 6 sessions. Things are scrolling on me, and my players love it. Thank you so much. Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you saying that. I'm happy to know that people are enjoying that stuff. So much stinking work. Whew, I'm still working on Into the Face stuff. We're getting very close. So right now, I've just got done going through all of the playtest feedback that I've gotten thus far and updating things. That took me a while. And I have one more stretch goal adventure to write and get that out to my playtesters. I'm hoping to get that done next week if I can, and get that out to the playtesters. And we work with artists. We have art. Many of the artists have given me their artwork. I probably have about maybe a quarter of the art at this point. No, I think it's more like a third, because some guys just gave me some art the other day too. So we're probably, and then a lot of the art is going to come in toward the end of February and stuff, because that's when the deadline is for that. And then I'm about to get some of the early manuscripts over to my editor. She's like an editor. She's my proofer. She's going to proofread the thing and make sure it sounds halfway good, I guess, you know. So we're doing that, and we're working at the dice bag production is already underway. The t-shirts are maybe going to get started. We might hold off on those until I close the Kickstarter surveys and stuff like that. So lots of work going on with that. So lots of crap in the pipe right there getting worked on. So things right now are progressing according to my optimistic timetable of getting things and being able to ship it in early spring, June-ish maybe. Right now things are progressing at a really good timetable to be able to ship stuff in June, perhaps, maybe. Who knows? We'll figure that out. So we should. My goal has always been to beat the original timetable of August, for the final product. But we'll see. You know, who knows? There might be some crazy stupid delay that comes up. But right now, everything is proceeding pretty well according to the timeline that I established. So hopefully everything goes well. So there's your free update on my Kickstarter Into the Fae. There you go. Okay, now let's answer questions. Okay, Dorum says, when you are using an enemy with counter spell, how do you determine from which level you should use it? For example, if PC will cast level 5 spell and you want to counter spell, are you going to metagame, or are you going to use counter spell from the lower level? I'm gonna metagame, baby. No, I'm not gonna metagame. This is how I do it. I will roll an Arcana check with my NPC, my monster, my spellcaster. The DC for knowing what spell somebody else is casting is 15 plus the level of the spell. So if they're casting a 5th level spell, the DC for my NPC spellcaster to know what spell they're casting is 20. If I get it high enough and I know that they're casting a 5th level spell, then I'm going to then have the option of casting my counter spell at a higher slot if I want to. If I fail my Arcana check and I don't know in character what spell they're casting, then I will cast counter spell at 3rd level. That's how I run it. And that way, by following it that way, there's zero probability of metagaming. The dice are deciding everything. If my NPC knows the spell through an Arcana check, then they have the decision. They can upcast counterspell if they want. If they don't know the spell, well, then they're going to cast it at 3rd level, and that's how you'll go. So that's how I run it. That way, it completely removes metagaming from my part. And my house rule, by the way, my house rule for identifying a spell with your reaction is that you can also, with that same reaction, cast counterspell. Because I realize that per Xanathars, identifying a spell takes a reaction, and of course, casting counterspell takes a reaction. But my house rule is that you can do both with the same reaction, and my players do the same thing too. So it's all my house rules go both ways. If the Dungeon Master can do it, the players can do it, and vice versa. So that's how I handle that situation. That takes metagaming completely out of it. Yep, answered. The Pickle says, related to the rant, is there kind of a line between NPCs and DMPCs? Sometimes it feels blurry. Yes, I will address that when we get to the rant, because I plan on covering that before I rant on it. Because yeah, there's a difference. In my opinion, there's a difference, at least in my mind. What's a good way of making a mystery session? I've talked about this before. Did I make an entire video about how to make a mystery session? I think I made a video about how to make a murder mystery type session. I think I have an entire video on my channel about doing that. If I haven't, I've answered this question many times. The dungeon coach is sending me messages. That's what that ding is. You know, I talk about junk. What was I gonna say? Oh, murder mystery. Yeah. Yes, you have 1 or 2 videos about that. Okay, so you go watch the video. Quick answer on murder mystery. You want to have different scenes set up where your players are going to go and investigate the scenes to find different clues and stuff, and you're going to want to have about 3 different clues at a scene. You want to have 1 clue that's either obvious or very easy to find that will lead them to the next scene, or 2. And you might have 5 scenes, and they don't have to be accomplished in any given order. You might have a clue that leads them to 1 scene, and then an obvious clue that leads them to that scene. You might have a couple clues that are harder to find or require some special thing, like you might have to be able to speak Druidic to understand what it means. And then if you get one of these other 2 clues that are harder to find, that might lead you to a different scene, which might allow you to like fast track and skip, or not. Who knows? There are different ways to do it. But you basically, what you don't want in a murder mystery is you don't want the players. You have a handful of scenes that they'll have to investigate and lead them through. What you don't want them to do is get to a scene and not be able to find the clue or the information that takes them further into the adventure. It is a very unsatisfying experience to just fail and not be able to solve it because you didn't figure the clue out. It's just like, okay, that was the adventure. Great, that sucks. Now you could say, well, Luke, that's not realistic. You know, I mean, they might, the realistic thing to do is if they don't find that information, then they just can't solve the problem and they end it right there. That is true. That is very true. However, we're not playing reality here. This isn't a reality. Okay, reality TV is actually not reality. It's totally fake. But that's a different topic. But we're not trying to what we're trying to do is run a game and have fun playing a game. That is our goal. You know, if we're trying to emulate reality as closely as possible, then most of the game is probably not going to be a whole lot of fun. Because the last I checked, reality, there's a reason we play D&D. It's usually did not have to deal with reality sometimes. So anyway, in my opinion, you don't want people to just not be able to figure out the clues and then game over, you know, you failed. That's the fail condition in a murder mystery in that sense is very bad. Now, if you're in a combat or something and you guys get your butts handed to you and, you know, you have to retreat or something, or you fail, because that's a little different because it's a combat and that's the trial itself. But if it's a dead end because you don't find the clue, that's unsatisfactory to me. So I will probably have a clue that's fairly obvious or easy to find that will help them progress through. And then there are going to be a couple clues that are going to be harder, that are the actual challenge. And if they find those, they get something special, or they get a fast track or something. They get some sort of reward in the adventure if they can figure out those other 2 clues. So that's a quick tip for running that sort of thing. And I have a whole video that probably goes into a lot more detail on it. But anyway, there are some thoughts. Penguin Butt, did you just say that I'm always lost in time? Wow, that's a very mean accusation. Ed, you're agreeing with Penguin Butt? Oh man, that's messed up, dude. That's so messed up. It's mean but true. You guys are gonna make me cry. I want to cry on my own live stream. It's not fair. Sil Seller says about the music in games, you have a preferred OST. I don't know what that means. Something like Game of Thrones or Black Snails or the Witcher games. Yes, let me show you what I do. Let me show you exactly what I do for music in my games right now. All right, I have a shortcut right here to tabletop audio. This is what I use in my games. It is very, very nice. It's got search functionality, a whole bunch of bullcrap you can do. Why can't I post this link? There we go. So this is what I use in my games for music. It's really cool. Now, this is like most of my games, like I have to use music that I have the rights to use because I'm like broadcasting it and stuff, or I'm like putting it on YouTube. So like I have an agreement with this dude. I pay him for the rights to be able to use his music in my games and stuff. But when I'm playing D&D for let's just say like whatever, and it's not going to be broadcast or it's not going to go on YouTube, then what I'll do, and that's not very often, but then what I'll do is I like using the Barbarian, Conan the Barbarian soundtracks. So there's Conan the Barbarian and then Conan the Destroyer. Those soundtracks are amazing. These are the movies from like the 80s, like yeah, or maybe the late 70s. The soundtracks for Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer are absolutely amazing. I love those soundtracks. Also, World of Warcraft soundtracks are really, really, really good. Whatever you think about the game itself, who cares? The soundtracks are really well done. And so those are some of my go-to soundtracks for my D&D games. Yeah. I also have used what's the other one? Oh, there was a couple more. I forget the names of them though. Obviously Lord of the Rings is really good too. There's another one too. I forget the name of it. Oh well. Anyway, there's some stuff for you. Elisa Goose, hello! Thank you for the tier 1. Elisa Goose, it's been so long. Are you still here? I haven't seen you in a while. You need to say something if you're still here. Type something. Come on, we're waiting for you. Yay, there we go. Hey, what's up? Cool, good to see you. Well, I mean, I'm seeing your name and what you type. I can't see you, but yeah, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming and hanging out for a little bit. We're gonna have some fun tonight. What's a good way of making a mystery session? I think I just answered that question. Maybe I didn't check it off or something. Oh, Diablo 2. You guys know, okay, so I went to college. I went to the University of Michigan. All right, my major was writing and literature. It was literature and creative writing. And let me tell you, I played some quality Diablo 2. Quality Diablo 2 during my days at university. Yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, that's what happens when you take like a worthless degree, you know, that's super, super easy. You have tons of time to play games. I swear, college, University of Michigan college was like the easiest 4 years of my life. I crap you not. It's just like, it was so easy. It was just dumb. Man, so much free time. It was beautiful. I even had a job, man. Not a full-time job, but I even had a job I was working and stuff, but I still had tons of free time. It was beautiful. I got good grades too. Anyway, that was great. Next question. The old DM says, do you use the raw for surprise, or do you have your own way of handling it? I do have my own way of handling surprise in 5th edition. Because you had an easy major. Oh, I'm not disagreeing, Pakyan. My major was easy. Like, literature and creative writing is such a stupid easy major to have. Like, there's probably somebody out there who's like, wow, Luke, all of the books you have to read. Ah, holy, ah. You've yet to learn the fine art of not reading all of the stupid books they assign you and just BSing your way through the essays. Like, you know, like there's probably only a couple of the books they assigned that I ever read that were actually halfway interesting. You know, all of these stupid books were just stupid professors who got their heads in the clouds and are all just like, they're assigning these books. It's like, oh, I'm not going to read your dumb books, dude. Oh my gosh. In hindsight, I probably should have gotten a degree in something that was useful in the world. But hey, I'm basically I've been a writer for a long time now, so I guess it kind of came in handy. It was a piece of paper. The piece of paper is probably what helped me get my job, you know, and then the actual on-job experience that actually helped me become a much better writer. But it was just a piece of paper. So I don't know, man. Sorry. There's probably some teachers or university professors here who are going to be like, "Grr." Yeah, I don't put a whole lot of value in our current education system. Sorry, folks. Like everything that I'm doing now, pretty much, that for my business, for my channel, for my Patreon, for the stuff that I publish, everything that I'm doing right now, I learned it from on-the-job experience at my job where I was a technical writer, and I've learned it through trial, experimentation, failure, learning from my failures, getting better, through reading stuff online, through Audible books that I listen to, you know, through this right here. This is my newest book that I just got that I'm working through right now and learning stuff about. Like, all the crap that I'm doing is from like stuff I learned on the job or stuff that I learned through my own personal investigation and pursuits, you know? So I don't put a whole lot of stock in 4 years of wasted time that give you a piece of paper and a lot of times crap tons of student debt. Let's not forget. But you know what? Let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons, because let's not talk about things like that just cause people anxiety and depression and crap. Sorry. See, I should not talk about these things. All right. Some people are upset with me right now. Sorry. Okay, we were going to talk about surprises. Yes, the rules in 5th edition for surprise. So the way 5th edition surprise works is surprise is actually a condition that you would get during the first round of combat. And if you are surprised, then during the first round of combat, if I remember correctly, because I actually don't use these rules, if I remember correctly, you cannot take actions or reactions during the first round of combat. And anything that denies if you're denied an action, you're also denied bonus actions. So for all intents until it's before your first turn or something like that. There are some rules, and I don't use them, so I'm not super clear on them. But anyway, I don't use them as written, and they seem needlessly complex and stupid, in my opinion. I don't know why. Like if I remember correctly, in previous editions, we simply had surprise rounds, where if you were surprised, you just don't get a turn on that round. And that is just so simple to me. The concept of just not getting a turn on the first round of combat if you're surprised is just the simplest concept in the world for me. I don't know why they turned it into a condition with some like rules around it and stuff. It just seems needlessly complex. It's not that complex. I mean, if you used it a handful of times, it wouldn't be that complex. Okay, granted. But it's still more complex than just saying you don't get a turn. And so I basically have surprise rounds. If you are surprised, you just don't act on the first round of combat. So like, let's pretend that the enemies surprise the PCs, except for one. Let's pretend that you have a rogue who can't be surprised. Well then, or he notices them. Well then in the first round of combat, all of the enemies get to go and the rogue gets to go. And then these other players don't even roll initiative. And then after the first round of combat, then they roll initiative and they get thrown into the round. So that's how I do it. It's not rules as written, but it's so much easier than 5th edition's stupid little surprise condition thing. So, yeah. That is almost exactly raw. Okay, hold on a second. We're gonna go look at raw because now I'm curious as to what it actually says. Carthagen, thank you so much for the Prime. Really appreciate it. Foxbolt Hero, thank you for the Prime. I appreciate it. Ed Robinson Jr., thank you for the 5 tier 1 gifted subs. So very cool. Please thank Ed if you just got a sub gifted to you. Night, yeah, there were 5 of you. Very cool. Okay, let's take a look at the actual surprise rounds for 5th edition, because like, I don't use them, so I don't really pay attention to them. All right, so I think we're probably going to be looking at the game rule sources. We're probably going to be in the player's handbook, and I'm going to guess that it's in combat. Here it is. Okay, let's see what this says. A band of adventurers sneaks up on a blah 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 blah. In these situations, one side of the battle gains surprise over the other. The DM determines who might be surprised. If neither side tries to be stealthy, they automatically notice each other. Otherwise, the DM compares the dexterity stealth checks of anyone hiding with the passive perception score of each creature on the opposing side. Okay, cool. Any character or monster that doesn't notice a threat is surprised at the start of the encounter. If you were surprised, so surprised is like a condition. If you are surprised, you can't move or take an action on your first turn of combat. And you can't take a reaction until that turn ends. A member of the group can be surprised even if other members aren't. So see, that's the thing. You basically don't get a turn on the first round of combat. You just don't get a turn. You can't move, you can't take an action, you can't take a reaction. So you just don't get a turn. I don't know. It just seems like they word it so weird. Why don't they just say you don't get a turn? Instead of saying the things you can't do on your first turn, which is pretty much everything, why don't they just say you don't get a turn? Well, you know what I mean? Isn't it the same thing? Isn't it like literally the same thing? By the way, this is the one instance where passive perception I use, and I think passive perception is perfectly fine when you're talking about stealth checks. For stealth checks, passive perception makes sense to me. I know I just did a video ranting about how I don't like passive mechanics, but passive perception versus stealth checks is fine. You know what I mean? In my opinion, it's the exception to that. You know what I mean? Is this a carryover from 4th edition where they overcomplicated stuff? It looks like it. It's written poorly? Yeah, it is dumb. Yeah. So I guess I pretty much do it like it says in the book. I just explain it differently because the book is like, I'm gonna make it complicated. Thatco, ah! Yeah. Let's see. Ratataki board, thank you for the prime. Really appreciate that. Elisa Goose, thank you so much for the 5 tier 1 subs. Really, really cool. Holy crap, you guys, we're on a level 5 hype train. I just noticed we had a hype train going. We are at 123% of a level 5 hype train. We cannot get it any higher than that. So I have a question for you all. Do you have any more money that Twitch can scam you out of? Get that hype train, get that scam train a little bit higher. The scam train. I'm appreciative of the subs. I love making fun of the scam train. It's totally a psychological tool they use to try to get people to give more subs. Of which Twitch takes half. Half. It is so ridiculous. They're just greedy bad people. It's insane the cut they take. Like, so one of the guys that I listen to is Devin Nash. He broadcasts here on Twitch. Actually, I thought he was live too. He might actually be live right now. Yeah, he is. He's literally live right now. So Devin Nash is one of the guys that I listen to, especially his YouTube videos. And he just recently put a video on his YouTube channel talking about the different cuts that the different platforms take, you know, Patreon, Twitch, YouTube. I think he did Facebook gaming and stuff. And he just Twitch Twitch's cut is insane. It's so nuts, man. You know, and he went into how little. So Twitch also gives, like, so if YouTube, the cut on YouTube for like ads and stuff, the creators on YouTube get at least 50% of the cut for ads on the platform. I think it might be a little bit higher than 50%. I forget the exact number that he mentioned. He mentioned very specific numbers because he's an industry expert guy on like streaming and content creation and stuff. He runs an agency and crap. So, but Twitch gives people less than 10% of the money they take for ads. So Twitch is just taking all the money from broadcasters and stuff. It's really, really bad. It's a very, very greedy platform. So anyway, I don't know. There you go. Twitch is gonna like ban me. I'll be like, all right, I'll just go to YouTube. Actually, my moderators would hate that. My moderators would freak out. They don't like YouTube. Oh, we're at 33% of the community goal. Oh, sweet. All right, I should answer more actual D&D questions. I answered that one. Okay, cool. Oops. As someone who doesn't get to play D&D, what constitutes experience points gained? So getting experience points. Generally speaking, experience points are rewarded if you're using experience points and not milestones. Experience points are rewarded when you overcome a challenge, when you overcome some objective. So there could be an encounter. If you overcome the encounter, let's say there are 3 goblins in the encounter. If you overcome that encounter, then you get experience points. You could overcome the encounter by sneaking by them. You could overcome the encounter by killing them all. You could overcome the encounter by diplomacy. There are a variety of ways you could overcome that encounter. In the standard D&D game, they're probably going to kill the goblins, but you don't have to. But overcoming that encounter gets you experience points, you know? So that's basically how you get experience points, by overcoming encounters, overcoming challenges, objectives. Traps might give experience points, you know, stuff like that. You might have a skill check that you build into your game that could give experience points. There's a lot of different things the Dungeon Master could have experience points attached to, you know, if they're using experience points in the game. So there's lots of different stuff. Role-playing your character might be experience points. Role-playing your personality traits, flaws, that sort of stuff. You could give experience points for that too. I've done that sort of thing in the past when I used experience points. I don't use experience points anymore. Sky Harpy says, ever take a bribe from a player? Kind of. Oh, I missed it. Oh, I totally missed it. Squeaky was beating the crap out of Squirty Pie. And Orange was just watching them. He's like, I don't know what's going on here, but they're just trying to kill themselves. I'm just a uninvolved third party just sitting here. So I had a player who was like, he wasn't explicitly giving me bribes, but he would bring me like an adult beverage to every game. He would give me bunches of miniatures from time to time. He would give me, you know, expensive bottles of adult beverages and stuff. He would give me stuff constantly, you know, and here's the thing. There's a fine line between like just being nice to your dungeon master and giving them a whole bunch of stuff, you know, to kind of like get on their good side, so that, you know, let's just pretend that you were a problematic player and you knew you were a problematic player and you didn't want, and you've been kicked out of many games before and you didn't want to get kicked out of a game. And so you're very nice to your dungeon master. You give him lots of things in the hope, you know, that like your stay can last as long as possible, you know, just theoretical supposing here, you know. So they weren't explicitly bribes, but I think I understand why I was getting all that stuff. Maybe. Unless I could be totally misreading the situation and it was just purely a love of the game and great gratitude toward me running it and stuff. And it could have been, I mean, I could have been totally misreading the situation, but I don't know. My spidey sense was going off toward the end there, you know. I have a player that gives me big nasty miniatures because he wants me to use them in the game. Oh, yeah, that's cool, dude. Oh, I think our time is up on the hype train. It's not like doing anything though. It's just sitting there at 0. I don't know why. It's really weird. Did you use the Taroka cards in your Curse of Strahd campaign, and are you going to use the magic items? Okay, if there are any Curse of Strahd players listening right now, cover your ears. This will ruin the game experience for you. Cover your ears. So Simpaticos, if you're here, cover your ears. Kevin, cover your ears. Okay. I think this is my personal opinion. Lots of people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. Do your thing your way. I'll do it my way. I thought that it was extremely lame to randomly determine important critical parts of the game. Where you're going to find these powerful artifacts, they're not technically artifacts, but they're very powerful. You can call them artifacts. Where you're going to find these 3 important artifacts, who's going to be your ally, and where you're going to find Strahd. Well, first of all, where you're going to find Strahd in the castle is stupid. Who cares? I'm going to put him wherever the crap I think is the most appropriate place to put him, and I'm going to design a nice and beautiful boss fight. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. But where you find these artifacts, it's like let's put these artifacts in these random hidey hole places, or I could put an artifact in a place where you would expect it to be, in the Amber Temple, guarded by all of these things. And the only way to get it is by talking to the Lich who has lost their memory and helping them get their memory back. And then they'll tell you where you can get this super powerful artifact. Like, there's a better way to cultivate and craft a fun game experience than randomly determining important parts of the game. So I felt that randomly determining that stuff through the Taroka cards was lame, you know, and I did not like it. I would rather make those decisions myself using this brain right here, so that I would have a better chance of having a meaningful, fun, interesting game experience with my players. So that is the choice, that is the option I chose. And quite honestly, the whole little spiel they give you at the beginning of Curse of Strahd, where they're just like, oh, this is a mechanic by which you can change things in the game and make the game replayable and stuff by determining the location of things. It's like, no, that does not make the game replayable, okay? Everything in the module is pretty much the same except for the location where you find a few things. That does not make the game replayable and stuff. It's just like this, I don't know why it was, whatever. So anyway, I did not use like the Taroka cards to determine those things. I chose where things were going to be based upon what I felt would be the best game experience, the best way to craft those things. So I used my brain, not dice, to make important decisions about how I'm running a game. So that was just my little thing. Oh, now we got it. Now we have the level 5 train emotes. I don't know why it took so long for it to like compute those things, but it took a while. Stephanie, what's up? If they get their fortune told, will you use the cards? I'm not gonna show them the cards. You know, like if they, I don't even know if they're gonna go get their fortune told. You guys, they're terrified of going to Madame Eva. My group does not want to go to Madame Eva. They don't. Like, I have given them that plot hook a few different times, suggested it to them. They don't want to go. They're terrified of going to her. She's part of the Vistani. They know the Vistani are bad guys. And one of my players chose to be a half Vistani PC. And there's like some tension between the full-blooded Vistani and the half-blooded Vistani. And so he doesn't want to go to the Vistani camp either. So I don't know if they're ever going to go to the Vistani. I don't know. But fortunately we're running things online, so I can just fluff my way through it and just be like, oh yeah, she pulled this card out. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna actually draw it from it. If I were to have to draw it from a deck, then I would probably stack the deck or something. I don't know how I would do it. But I'm not gonna like leave up to chance important parts of my game. I'm just not going to do it. There we go. When do you hand out inspiration? Have you ever given out free XP instead, or whenever they already have inspiration? If so, how much? Things aren't word wrapping. Word wrapping didn't work on that one. I give out inspiration when my players role play their character as well. It could be a backstory thing. It could be a personality trait, a flaw. It could be something that going on. Those are the standard things I give out inspiration for. I might give out, I give out inspiration a lot of times if a player reminds me of something that I forgot about that is actually not in their best interest. We're like, Luke, you know what? You forgot to roll extra damage for me because of this thing. You know, I might give them inspiration just for the honesty of that sort of thing. So I give out inspiration for lots of different things. Dude, if we have an amazing moment and somebody makes some sort of joke or something and we're all just dying with laughter, I might give them an inspiration point because they just made our entire game experience that much more fun. So I tend to just try to give those out a little bit more now. I'm no longer using my luck point system, and so I try to be more free with the inspiration points. And if a player reminds me that, hey, I just did this thing which is part of my blah 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 blah, you know, can I get inspiration? I usually will say yes and give them inspiration. The inspiration mechanic, when used as written, where you have to declare you're using inspiration first and then you roll with advantage, is a good mechanic, but it's not crazy super powerful. It is, but it isn't. I don't know if that makes sense. I answered that one. Oh, I'm way behind in questions. Is it more important to make a really believable villain or a powerful force? I don't know how much I even worry about believable villains. What is a believable villain? If I make it, it makes sense to me. It's gonna make sense to me. So like, I don't know. I don't really concern myself a whole lot with believability. Sometimes my players will question things like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why is this happening? It doesn't make sense. How would this blah, blah, blah? They'll have these questions. And I don't worry about that. I don't have to have the answer to those questions. They can sit there and wonder about them and hypothesize and speculate, and their brains will come up with some reason why that thing is the way it is. I just don't care. You know, like I'm not running like a slapstick, or I'm not running like a stupid game where verisimilitude and suspension of disbelief is all thrown out the door. You know what I mean? There is some there's a base level of believability to things, you know, which I stick to. But if the occasional thing comes out that's, why is that way? This doesn't make any sense. Why would that NPC do this thing? I'm not too worried about answering those questions. I don't feel that I don't care. My players can ask those questions and they can wonder about it and they can think that there's a problem with it. But I'm just gonna give them my poker face and give them no answer at all. And I'm gonna let them figure it out on their own. They're gonna fill in the blanks somehow. The Dungeon Master doesn't have to spell everything out. Like, and people's imaginations and brains will fill in the gaps, you know? So yeah, I don't worry too much about that. As far as like a powerful force, I mean, if your goal with a villain is to have a powerful villain that they're gonna have to fight, and you want it to be a really epic boss battle, then yeah, you're gonna be concerned about either making the villain himself powerful, or at least developing that encounter and that boss battle to be a challenging encounter. You can easily take a villain who's not super powerful, but make that encounter super challenging through minion, through terrain, through special effects, through variety of gimmicks and different things the Dungeon Master can do in an encounter to take it to the next level, you know? So I don't know if I answered your question. I gave words. Oh yeah, we're doing a giveaway tonight. Go to that link that people just threw there. You can win some of these tokens. These things are awesome. Yeah. Am I not good at this? Glad Cleric says, by the way, if you're wondering, tactical tokens are amazing. I love the set I bought. Awesome. Yay, look at that. Penguin Butt says, I have wanted these tokens for a long time. Well, you know, Penguin Butt, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who makes these tokens. I am getting low on coffee. Yeah. Where are we at? Answering questions. I'm really good at this live stream thing. Bardabear says, should I let players control NPCs? Specifically, momentary NPCs like tribal warriors who the party just freed. Yes. Yes, that is 100% perfectly fine practice to do. I have done that on many a fine occasion. When there is something like a tribal warrior in your situation where they just freed, and they're gonna work with the party, and they're gonna work with the players' characters and that sort of thing. I will 100% just say, hey, you guys, you just freed these 4 tribal warriors, and I really don't, and they're working on your side now. I really don't want to have to play them in combat and stuff like that. This is the stat block. Could you guys just, I don't care how you do it. One of you could run all of them. Each of you could run one of them. I don't care how you do it. Just figure out how you want to do it. I don't want to do it myself. I'm running all of the bad guys. Here's the thing. When I'm running all the bad guys, there is a conflict of interest when I'm also running characters or NPCs on the other side of the conflict, of the combat. So I don't like to do that. I like to be on one side and my players are on the other side. I don't like that conflict of interest there. And so yes, I will frequently let them run that sort of thing. In fact, right now for my Ancient Dragon group, they have an intern that is on their side that I run in combat and stuff, and I hate doing it. I do not like running the intern. I just do not like doing it. I want to run the bad guys. I don't want to run the good guys too. We're gonna add that to our rant that we're gonna do here. Conflict of interest in battle. Okay, there. We're compiling a list of the things I'm gonna rant about DMPCs. I just got another idea there. I'm not sure how to reward players for role-playing. My last session was all roleplay, and I'm unsure of how to do it since my player really role-played well. Dude, I reward roleplay with inspiration. That's how I reward roleplay. I use, now if you're using XP, you could give them some XP for role-playing. There's no reason you couldn't. When I was using the XP system, I gave my players XP for role-playing. Not a lot, but a little bit, as a reward for role-playing. So you could totally do that. I use the milestone system. So, you get a milestone by accomplishing objectives, like large objectives. Like, I don't know, it could be, defeating the villain who's in this castle. That's the objective. When you do that, you get a level. So if you spend an entire game session shopping in a town and just role-playing buying stuff, you're not getting any closer to accomplishing your objective. So that doesn't really help you gain a level. And you keep biting me, you're gonna get picked up. Squeaky's biting me. And here's the other thing too. In all honesty, when you gain a level in the game, what generally improves? Your combat abilities. Generally speaking, your combat abilities improve, or your spellcasting abilities improve. Those are the things that get better. Let's just call it combat abilities improve. Generally speaking, most of the things that improve for your character when you level up have to do with combat. So if I Luke here, I do like martial arts and crap. If I never practice my martial arts and I never do that at all, can I expect them to get better? Nope. So if you're looking at D&D characters, most of the stuff that gets better when you level up has to do with combat stuff, related stuff. If that's the stuff that gets better when you level up, and you just spend all your time talking, maybe you're just in the village buying crap, why would you expect to get better at combat if you're just talking, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. But that's my thoughts on how I would run it. There are some games where all they do is talk, and it's all just talk. You know, there's not really any combat. It's just talk. And if that's the game, then leveling up is meaningless anyway, because you never use the stuff you get when you level up. You like 90% of a character sheet has to do with combat. So like in a game where there's never really any combat, leveling up is pretty meaningless because you're not using that stuff anyway, because all you do is talk. You can make an argument that D&D is probably not the best game system for a game like that. There are probably better game systems where combat is like seldom happens, you know? I don't know. Yes, that's a great point. Combat is role playing. I might have actually just right now been doing the thing that I hate when people do this. So the role playing as an overarching concept encompasses 3 different aspects of the game. They're called the pillars of the game, generally speaking. You have combat, social interactions, and exploration. And those 3 elements are all role playing. This overarching umbrella of role playing applies to combat, social interactions, and exploration. Many people, when they say role playing, they're not talking about actual role playing. They're talking about social interactions or the talky bits. That's not role playing. That's one part of role playing. Combat is role playing just as much as social interaction or the talky bits or speaking in character. Some people even go farther and they say, when they say role playing, what they mean is speaking in character, you know, and they drill down even further, you know, and they get even farther away from the truth of what role playing actually is. Exploration is role playing, sneaking around in dungeons, poking around, finding things, all that kind of stuff, you know, discovering secret doors and chests and doing stuff, exploration stuff. This is all role playing. So if I probably misspoke and was talking about the talky stuff instead of role playing, and somebody should hunt me down and chop my head off, because that's a unforgivable sin. All right. I have just finished a pre-made module for my part. The one at the back of the AI book, Acquisitions Incorporated book, okay? And we'll be moving to a custom adventure. What is the best way to start making adventures based around players' backstories? Yeah, so I'm afraid that I'm going to have very, very anticlimactic advice for you. Read their backstories, create an adventure that has to do something to do with their backstory. That's it. It's nothing fancy. There's no shortcut or fanciness. Read the backstory, and then you brainstorm, use your brain, your creativity, and you come up with an adventure that has something to do with that backstory. That's it. That's all there is to it. My cat is bothering me. Apparently it's time for me to give them cat treats. For instance, let me give you an example, because the person who asked the question is going to be like, you suck, Luke. I could have done that on my own. Yeah. The funny thing is that so many parts of being a dungeon master and doing dungeon mastery stuff are pretty simple. They're pretty simple. It's not brain surgery. It just takes a little bit of work, you know? And obviously, even if something is simple, if you've never done it before, it's hard. Yes, agreed. Until you've done a little bit, even simple things are hard. You know, like hammering nails into a board. You know, watch a young kid who's just learning this. They hit themselves a lot. So yeah, it's not hard. You know, it's fairly simple conceptually. Example, so my Ancient Dragon campaign, Krindar, his backstory. He is responsible for murdering his 2 brothers. There's a whole story behind it. I'm not gonna go into details. And then he ended up running away from his village. His sister, who survived this horrible stuff, now blames him and is looking for revenge on him. Now that is where I come in. You know, I now have created adventures where his sister is looking for revenge on him and things are happening. You know, so that's where I come in. Having read his backstory, I am now creating adventures based on his backstory. And it simply has to do with me brainstorming and coming up with ideas after having read the backstory. There's nothing super complex about it, you know. It's the same process I would use if I were creating adventures not based on backstories. I would just read something that inspires me, such as the monster manual, or I might look at some artwork that I think is really cool, and I would just brainstorm an adventure around that thing. And, you know, so yeah, sorry, I didn't have any earth-shattering information there. Okay, somebody click that for me. All right, what we're gonna do now is cat strike. This right here, the stuff of legends, baby. All right, and hello, Squeaky.
What? What?
Whoa. Yeah, I'm trying to see if some of my other cats will come down, but they apparently cannot hear me. They're probably upstairs on the second floor. This is like the reason they're here. Once they have their snack, they will like go away. What is going on? All right, I'm gonna go get some more coffee. I'll take a bio too.
Mommy, what are you doing, Mommy? Mommy, stop.
Oh. There we go. All right, that was our cat strike. Complete. Complete. Oh, my coffee.
Mommy, what are you doing? Where are you going, Mommy?
There we go. Squirty pie goes in the box. I wonder if we'll get two cats in the box. I guarantee you Squeaky's gonna go in there. Here he goes. Here he goes. Oh, he's thinking about it. He walks away. I thought he was gonna go in there too, try to steal her snack. Wow. Going to get coffee and forgetting the coffee. Why is this so relatable? Yeah, I do this sort of thing. Sometimes I'll walk all the way upstairs to get something or do something, and I'll go to the bathroom or something, but that wasn't the reason I went up there. And then I'll walk all the way back down. I'll sit down in my chair and I'll be like, hey, I went upstairs to do this and I didn't do it. Here he goes. Look at that. What a big tub. He's like, get out of my box. He's such a bully. My sad barbarian voice still hits you in the feels.
Oh, you guys, that's not very nice. Why would you do that to me? It almost made me want to cry. It's not very nice.
Oh, I'm the barbarian. All right. Natural Dice says, how can one manage a player with an ego? I don't know exactly what you mean by that and how the person is behaving. If they have specific problematic behavior, then talk with them and ask them to stop doing whatever they're doing. But usually someone with an ego, they might not be literally doing like something wrong or bad. They just rub you the wrong way. You know, like I can think of this guy at work that I know, and you work with him. He's not somebody on my current team, but I have worked with him a couple times in the past. He has a huge ego, massive ego, you can tell. And he just rubs you the wrong way. It's the tone of voice that he uses. It's how he talks to you. It's the things you know what I mean? It's how he interacts with you. He just rubs you the wrong way. So you can't like actually say, hey, you're doing X, Y, and Z wrong or bad or anything. It's just like, he just grates against you. His personality and how he treats you and stuff just grates because of his ego. So I think I understand. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to deal with that. Like, I might try to have a conversation with the dude. I mean, you know, I don't know how I would deal with that, man. Like, either I'm going to accept it as who he is and be okay with it and get over it, me personally, or it's probably not going to work out for us. You know, I don't know any other way to deal with it. If I'm reading and understanding the question and stuff properly, you know. I have a variety of different players that I've played with before. I've had super annoying players. I've had players that have no social, like, social grace or social skills at all. You know, I've had a wide variety of players. So I've learned to be able to accept and be okay with a wide variety of people and personality types and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So what I would try to do is, you know, can I personally just like let it go and not let it get to me? Is that possible? But then you have the question of how is it affecting the other players too? And is that causing a problem with the other players? Because what you don't want is the other players to be like, peace out, I can't deal with this dude. And then you lose your game too. So that could be a problem you have to deal with as well, you know? But yeah, I think I understand. That's rough. I don't know that I have good advice for you besides what I just said, which isn't really kind of a solution. It is, but it isn't. I don't know. What would you... Oh, Penguin Butt. Question from Penguin Butt. What would you recommend a DM to say to their player if the player said, I would rule it this way at my table, after they were constantly being a spotlight hog rules lawyer, asked on behalf of someone else? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm just asking for a friend. Okay, so I after they were constantly being a spotlight, I would basically have a conversation with the player where I was like, dude, you need to stop. You are doing this problematic thing, what you just said. Okay, it is causing me to feel this way, or it is causing this negative effect at the game table. And so you're doing this thing. This is the negative effect that it's having. And this is what I would like you to do. You know, basically stop doing this sort of thing. And I'm asking you to do that. So that is the conversation to be had, you know, and talk about it. And rational people, decent human beings, rational people, good players, understanding people, blah, 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 whatever, are usually going to be able to course correct, you know, and change their behavior a little bit. But the conversation needs to happen. You need to be very specific. You're doing this thing. It's causing this problem, making me feel this way. And this is what I would like you to do. Have that conversation, and then hopefully they can, you know, change what they're doing. And it's possible that they don't even know that what they're doing is really causing that big of an issue. Sometimes people that don't have certain social graces are just oblivious to the fact that it's an issue. So have the conversation. And obviously, if it doesn't change and it keeps on, you have to then ask yourself a question, you know, how big of a deal is this? Does the person need to leave? Because sometimes that is the solution. Once you've exhausted all other options and things just aren't working out, it might not be a good fit. That's like the last course of action, obviously. For your counterspell DC, do you make a distinction if a wizard is trying to identify a wizard spell versus a cleric spell, or whether they are upcasting a known spell by the wizard? I usually don't make a distinction between different types of spells. I usually don't. I mean, you could easily make an argument that it makes sense to do so. Granted, it makes the rules more complicated and stuff to a certain degree, so I just don't mess around with it. Whether they're upcasting a known spell, whether they're upcasting or not, I usually don't give that information. That information isn't really known. So if they're upcasting a spell, then and you try to identify the spell, you're probably not going to know that they're upcasting it. You could say that if you're casting the fireball spell, which is a level 3 spell, but you're upcasting it at level 5, which I have no idea why would you want to do that, because a level 3 fireball is as good as it gets for action, for just economy. But anyway, if you're upcasting at level 5, the DC for a level 3 spell would be 18. So if you get an 18 on your check, you might know that it's a fireball spell. But let's say that you're upcasting at level 5. Let's say that if you get a 20, you will then get additional information and know that they're upcasting it at level 5 because it was, you know, two slots higher. So 18 plus 2 is 20, right? So you could rule that. I don't know if that's ever specifically come up in my game, but that would probably be the way I would rule it. And that seems pretty fair, I think. Have you ever made your own D&D class or subclass? Heavens no. Heavens no. I am not a homebrew guy. I homebrew my own adventures and stuff, and NPCs and villains and traps. Anything that has to do with being a dungeon master and what the dungeon master does to run games, I homebrew the crap out of that. Obviously, I make my own junk. But as far as things that are in the player area, like classes, subclasses, feats, stuff like that, I don't mess around with that. I quite frankly don't care. I'm a dungeon master. So no, I've never done that stuff before. Okay. How do you handle the speaking volume of the players? For example, if they were whispering or if they want to overhear another conversation while doing something. Are you talking in character or out of character? Because you said players. And in what context? I don't really understand that question. I don't understand that question. Sorry. I don't know what you're asking. Mayor McCheese. That's cool. Do you recommend, if using XP, to reward extra XP to players who are more active and participating in the game, other than those who continuously talk among themselves, on the phone, out smoking, etc. Okay, so let's make a little distinction here, first of all. Okay, players who are continually talking among themselves, I'm not gonna let them keep talking and distracting everybody else and ruining the game. They get the look of death to stop talking among themselves. I hate side conversations when I'm trying to run a game. I do not tolerate them. Okay, that's there. USA. If they're on their phone, they are not on their phone at the game table. Walk away and take your phone call. Thank you very much. If they're out smoking, well, at least they're out smoking and not at the game table doing it. Okay, so look, the talking among yourselves has to stop. Okay, if you're on your phone, if you're you mean like not talking on their phone, but just on their phone goofing around. Yeah. So here's the thing. What you are suggesting is using in-game mechanics to penalize or punish out-of-game undesirable behavior. And as a general rule, I do not endorse using in-game mechanics to penalize or punish out-of-game undesirable behavior, such as on your phone all the time, talking, being disruptive and stuff like that. So the answer is no. I would not recommend using any in-game mechanics, such as experience points or losing levels or taking psychic damage or some other stupid bullcrap to penalize out-of-game undesirable behavior. So 100% do not at all recommend doing that whatsoever. Whenever there is an undesirable out-of-game behavior, then my approach to that is pretty much always the same. Like, this is a common question I get. Luke, I have a player who's doing X and it's a problem. What should I do? Luke, my player does this and I can't stand it and I don't know what to do. How do I deal with the situation? My answer is pretty much always the same for how you deal with out of character undesirable behaviors, such as rules lawyering or arguing with you or being on the phone the whole time, not paying attention, causing distractions to the rest of the group. The answer is pretty much always the same. It is going to be have a conversation with that player. Explain to them first what they're doing that's causing an issue at the game table, and explain what the issue is. Why is it a problem for them to be talking among themselves, having a side conversation? Why is it a problem for them to be on the phone all the time, not paying attention? Why is it a problem for them to be out having smoke breaks every 5 minutes or so? Like, if those things are problems for you, and I'm not necessarily saying that those things are or are not problems, okay? Some of those are, in my opinion, but whether something is a problem or not is up to your own discretion. But whenever there's something that's a problem, this is what you do. You tell them what the problem is, you explain why it's a problem, and then you ask them to refrain from the undesirable behavior. Like, it's the basic standard 3 steps there. There's actually some sort of like problem solving or problem confrontation model that exists out there that this is like loosely based off from. But these are like the basic 3 steps for handling almost any out of character problem behavior of your players. And this is where I take it. It has to do with having this conversation every single time, having this conversation. And the problem is that a lot of times dungeon masters or people in general just don't want to have these conversations because it involves confrontation. It involves an uncomfortable situation that many people would rather avoid. So I get it. I get that we don't like this. I get that it's hard. I get that it's challenging. I get that it is far easier to simply give them fewer experience points or give them psychic damage or something like that. I understand that it is easier for you as a dungeon master to punish their bad behavior, their out of character bad behavior in character. I get that it's easier for you. But really what we're doing is we're avoiding that critical conversation. We're avoiding the thing that is actually going to possibly help, which is talking to the person. That's the thing that might actually help, having a conversation like adults and then trying to resolve things through talking with each other. Is it a little bit confrontational? Sure. Is it going to take courage on your part? Yeah. Will it be uncomfortable? The first few times you do it, absolutely. Maybe it'll be uncomfortable every time you do that sort of thing. But this is problem resolution 101. This is how you resolve problems when you have players that are causing problems at your table. You don't punish them in character. That's not going to get anywhere. It could just piss them off more. And they might not even understand why you're doing it. Who knows? So no, I don't recommend that. And I recommend talking to people and trying to resolve things that way. So that's the basic way you do it. And yeah. And hopefully after you have that conversation, things will get better. And if things don't get better and the problematic behavior persists, you have to basically ask yourself a question. Is this a showstopper for me? Is this a game breaker? Can I accept this problematic behavior and are we okay with it? Or is it not gonna fly? If you accept that it's happening and you're just gonna live with it, like I have a player who frequently will be on his phone at stretches. And I have decided that the extent to which he's on his phone and the interruption that it causes is not that big of a deal. I'm not gonna make a big deal over it. I've accepted that it's just something that he's going to do. He's still paying attention. He's still engaging in the game, but sometimes he is on his phone a little bit. I've accepted that I'm just gonna live with that. I'm gonna live with that. So that's not a showstopper to me. But there is some problematic behavior that is a showstopper, and if the person, after having been spoken with, does not change it, then they're probably going to be asked to leave the game. What are you gonna do at that point? You've tried talking with them, you've tried having that conversation, sometimes multiple times you speak with the same person about something and they just don't change. And if the problematic behavior is severe enough, then they probably need to be asked to leave the game. And if you don't, here's the problem. If you just don't do anything and you let that problematic behavior continue its course and just keep going on, like you could start losing your actual good players from the game. You could have players who are like, you know what, Luke, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna play anymore because that dude, what he's doing is ruining the game for me. It's ruining my fun, and I'm out. And then you're in the situation where you have good players who are leaving your game because nobody dealt with the bad behavior of the problematic behavior of the problematic players. And that is a horrible situation because you have good players leaving the game and you're stuck with the player that has issues, right? So my advice is to address these issues, to talk with the person and try to bring things to resolution. If you ignore them and you just let them fester and get worse, you're probably not going to have a good end output. Like the outcome is probably not going to be favorable. It's not going to be good. Those things need to be dealt with. Is it fair that traditionally those things have fallen to the Dungeon Master to do? Is it fair that players usually look to the Dungeon Master for leadership in addressing with and dealing with problematic players? One could argue it's not fair, but a lot of times it falls to the Dungeon Master to do that stuff. And so I've always just encouraged Dungeon Masters to have the courage to do it, to talk with people and try to resolve those things. And you have to. If you don't, it could ruin your game. At the very least, it is going to continually reduce the quality of your game, and everybody is having less fun, you and the other players, because you're not dealing with something that really needs to be dealt with. So I encourage folks to have the conversation, as uncomfortable as it might be, to hopefully correct the behavior so the person can improve and everybody can continue having fun. Worst case scenario, you take care of business and you might have to ask someone to leave, but at the end of the day, everybody's gonna be having more fun. I've had to remove 2 people from my groups over the years. And I can tell you that after having removed both of these people, everybody was happier for it. And we had a much better game as a result. Did I talk with them first? Did I try to have conversations first to try to? Yeah, of course I did. One dude I talked with multiple times about the things he was doing. But at the end of the day, it came down to, you're gonna have to leave. And the game was better as a result. Sometimes what you gotta do. So there you go. That was a long answer. Sorry. Okay, that's probably gonna go on YouTube. Let me get a timestamp on this. 1:20. There we go. That's pretty good. Thank you, Heresy Bob. Also, if you're a player and someone does start a conversation like this, back them up. Yes. Yes. If you agree and you want to support them, please support them. Because somebody is letting it all hang out to start that conversation. Those are not easy conversations. And so if somebody's letting it all hang out to start that conversation, back them up, man. Because it took courage to go there. It takes courage to have those talks. It totally does. All right, let's keep going here. How often do you use the deck of many things? Not too often. I've actually used the deck of many things twice now since running 5th edition. And one time I used it with my Hand of Light group, and that video is on my YouTube channel. It's an older one. It's from like 2 or 3 years ago. You got to dig for it to find it. But if you look for deck of many things, DM layer, you'll find it. I literally show you the gameplay video of the players and what happened. That's the video. I'm basically showing you literally what happened. It's pretty cool. In different ways, it was cool and not cool, but anyway. And I recently used it with my Youngling group. My Youngling players, this was like the last game session we had. We were playing, and I forget what the situation was, but I literally, on a whim, I think they're level 10. I think they're level 10. I literally on a whim was like, we're pulling out the deck of many things this game session. And they found the deck of many things, and they pulled cards from the deck of many things. And I'm not gonna lie, one of them gained 2 levels and then lost a level. Oh, that was bad finger. And then lost a level because of another card. And one of the players had her soul sucked out of her character, and she's gonna have to roll up a new character. It's the deck of many things. You know, this is my Youngling group. I started playing with these guys when they were about 12. I think they're all around 15 or so now. So they're definitely into their teenage years, you know. And they have grown up learning that happens. Bad things happen in the game, and it's just part of the game. So don't get upset, don't cry over it. Just roll up a new character and keep having fun. Some people get way too worked up over their characters. Penguin Buzz says, Luke, I can't time you out for the bad finger. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. Yes, keep having fun is the most important part of character death. Yes. I love dying when I'm playing the game. You guys, when I am a player and my character dies, I'm happy. I get to make a new character and play something else that I think might be fun and interesting. That's not a bad moment. That is a great moment for me. I know not all players feel that way. That's just my personal opinion, obviously. Okay, let's go. Hi, I'm really into fantasy and role-playing games and wanted to start playing Dungeons & Dragons. Do you have any tips for a beginner or how to get started? Yes. Go to my Discord channel. There is a looking for games server in my Discord channel. Go there, post, hi, I'm new and want to play D&D. Does anybody have room and stuff like that? And then almost assuredly, you're going to be able to find a group. There are tons of people looking for group on my Discord server all the time, and somebody will get you looped in. I will say this, please listen. The quality of D&D games varies greatly. There are many fine people that have played one game of D&D and it was a horrible group, maybe a horrible dungeon master, and they were turned off to the whole game. And then they'll come back like 20 years later and have the time of their life. They just had the bad luck of the draw that they got into a bad group, you know? So that could happen. My hope is that you would find a good group so that it would give you a good first impression of the game, because it's an amazing game, tons of fun and stuff, but there are bad groups, and if you get in one of them, you just could get a shaft. So try again would be my suggestion there. You got to just start playing. The best thing to do is to start playing. And be honest with them all. Be honest with your group and say, guys, totally new, never played before. Be honest up front, and most of the time, if the group is like, oh, that's cool, we'll show you how it works and everything, welcome, 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 that's a great first start. A group who turns you away because you're new is a good sign that you probably don't want to be in that group. So being honest and upfront about being new to it is the way to go. Alfaro says, 2 questions. Do you enjoy prep or running the game more? Have you ever co-DM'd with another person? Do I enjoy prep or running the game more? Sometimes I really enjoy prep work. Sometimes I really hate prep work. It depends on how much time I have and how, if you understand, like I have so much stuff that I do. My life is very busy with lots of work and lots of things that, lots of fire, pokers in the fire type of thing. And so I have a limited amount of time, but when I do have like a vacation or something, and I just have free time, I really enjoy preparing for games. I really love reading through the monster manual, finding things, you know, preparing a game session, making maps, you know, writing out the adventure, designing things. That is a lot of fun for me. I get a lot of enjoyment out of preparing and designing adventures. That's a lot of fun for me. However, if I don't have a lot of time and I'm crunched for time, it feels like work. But I think that's more because of the pressure of having to do a bunch of stuff, and just preparing an adventure and preparing a game takes a bit of time, you know? And when you're pressured and you don't have a lot of it, it takes the joy out of it, if that makes sense. But I really do enjoy preparing the games when I have the time to do so and I don't feel that pressure on me, you know what I mean? Running the games is fun too. I enjoy running the games. There are always times when I don't like running the games, where it kind of feels like work to me. But for the most part, it's a lot of fun to me too. If I had to pick one, which would I pick? Gosh, what's the point of preparing the game if you don't run the game? So if you had to pick one, I would probably, but preparing could be so much fun. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could pick one. I don't think I could pick one. You need both. If you don't do both, what's the point? Yeah, I don't know. It's like asking me to pick between my 2 children. I don't have to. I have 1 daughter, but if I had 2 daughters, it's like saying, Luke, which daughter is your favorite? You know, you can't choose. Have I ever co-DM'd with another person? No, I don't even know how you would co-DM. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that looks like. So that's like people talk about co-DMing, and it's an area of the game that I've just never experienced and don't really know anything about. So no, I don't know anything about that. I have a feeling if we're literally in the same game session together with 2 DMs, I have a feeling I probably might not enjoy that. I kind of like being the DM and sharing that with somebody else. I don't know that I'm like a good boy that would like to share that. How would you calculate the difficulty of a dungeon? I just use the rules. I use the encounter building rules to calculate roughly the encounters themselves, and then I use the adventuring day mechanic to roughly have the appropriate amount of encounters in a dungeon. And that's how you go into calculating the difficulty of a dungeon. I think I'm answering the question, but I might be missing something. Co-DMing is a big thing for conventions and really big groups, 10 or more people. That's interesting. Yeah, I just wouldn't have that many people in my group. No way. 6 is my hard cap. Like hard cap. Well, I was once a dungeon master at a convention, and there were like 7 people because I only had 6. There were 6 spots at my table, but somebody that I knew signed up for the game, and then she brought her, I think it was her fiance along, and she was like, she told me there's not enough spots for him, so like he's just gonna watch. And I was like, no, he's not. He's gonna play. Here's a character sheet. Let's go. And so I ran it for 7 people. I didn't have any problem with 7 people. I don't think that for just running it once at a convention, not a big deal. I don't think I'd want to do that for an ongoing game. But it wasn't that big of a deal. It's more work and effort on my part, you know what I mean, to run for that many people. So at a convention, I wouldn't care. But for an ongoing game, I wouldn't want to do that. Actually, my ongoing games, I have 5 people, and that's what I do. Ursa Corbera, thank you for the Prime. I really appreciate that. Dan is leaving? Where's Dan going? Dan! Where are you going, Dan? Is he going to play D&D? Oh, he's playing his game? Ooh. Lee Twisto says, I no longer have fun being a DM in one of my groups. This recently happened to me. I am currently a DM of 3 games and a player in 1 more. Recently, I have noticed that I am not having fun running one of the groups, and I do not know why. They are good friends, they are having a good time, and they like to play, but I do not find as much fun being a DM of that group as with the other 2. Sir, there's no question in your question. Are you still here, dude? What's your question? Is the question literally what should I do? Or did you have something else? Tell me, what's the rest of your question, dude? Because I didn't see a question in there. Then I'll hook you up, man. I'll just wait for you, no pressure. We'll all stare at you. Everybody's staring at you, we're just waiting. But I literally had the same thing happen to me for my Wonder Panda campaign. This is a game that I've been running for people at work for a couple years. Do I have any advice? Yes, I have advice. So I've been running a Wonder Panda campaign for people, coworkers at work for 3 years now, and we played every Friday, almost every Friday, for about an hour and a half over our lunch break. And I, for some time now, have just not been having fun. Inexplicably, just not enjoying it. It just hasn't been fun for me. And I have not been having fun in that game for several months, for quite some time now. And I didn't know why. It was a similar situation. Like, they were friends. I mean, they're co-workers, but they're still friends. I get along with them. I like them, you know. One of them is a player in one of my other games, you know, so we get along with each other. They were having fun, you know, I was running the game for them and stuff, but I just was feeling inexplicably like a loss of desire to run that game. Like, I just didn't want to. And Fridays would come along and I'd be like, oh, I have to run D&D today. And it felt like work to me. It felt like a chore to me, you know? And like when you start when D&D day when D&D day comes along, and as a dungeon master, instead of being like, woo, D&D today, you're like, you know something's not right. Like, and I didn't know why. I had no idea why. I just knew that I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't having fun. And it felt like work to me. And honestly, I didn't want to do it. I would rather go to the gym over my lunch. I actually enjoy going to the gym. Except for my knee. My knee is hurt right now and I can't really do anything. And I hurt my hand too. I'm a mess right now. But I would rather go to the gym. I would rather do other things besides run D&D for these guys. And I didn't know why. I just lost that desire. I had no more desire to do it. And I knew that the game probably suffered because my heart wasn't in it any longer. I wasn't having fun. And here's the thing too. I'd been feeling that way for, I don't know, say 5 months. Let's say it's been 5 months since I've been feeling that way. But I kept on running the game. I kept on running the game for them because I knew they were having fun, they were enjoying themselves, and I did not want to let them down. So out of a sense of obligation to them, of being the good dungeon master and running a game because I knew that they were enjoying themselves, out of a sense of that obligation, I continued doing it for many months, even though I wasn't really having too much fun with it and it felt like work a lot of times. And I actually, probably about 2 months ago, I had composed an email to them where I was going to cancel the game because I wasn't having fun anymore. And then I backed out of it and I was like, no, you can't cancel, man. They're having fun. I don't want to cancel. And so I didn't. But I would say, I think it was 2 weeks ago. It's literally 2 weeks ago. I finally was just like, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I wrote the email because we're all remote right now. So normally I would probably try to talk to them face to face or something. But anyway, I wrote the email and I was like, explained it. I was like, hey guys, you know, basically what I just told you, not having fun anymore. But here's the thing too. I felt my own personal situation. I felt that a large part of the reason I wasn't having fun anymore is that we were playing online. We were playing remote. And before we were playing in person. And there's just such a big difference. For me personally, playing in person is so much more enjoyable than playing online. It's just a different experience. And when we were playing in person, it was just different. It was fun. I was enjoying myself. But transitioning online is just not as enjoyable. And in all honesty, I feel the same way for my Curse of Strahd game. Like, it would be so much more fun for us if we were in person playing Curse of Strahd than playing online. And I cannot wait until we go back to playing in person. But right now, what are you gonna do? You know, the Scourge of Nations is upon us. So what are you gonna do? So that's what was happening. And I finally wrote my Wonder Panda players and said, hey guys, I'm tapping out. I can't do this anymore. My heart's not in it anymore. But once we're back in the office, which will happen eventually, and we're able to be in person again, then we might get back into doing it, you know? So that's what I told them. I basically just said, hey, I'm done. I'm not gonna run anymore. And I felt bad doing it. I felt really bad doing it because I know that they looked forward to it, that they enjoyed themselves. And I felt bad making that decision. And I didn't like doing it, you know, but it was like, my heart wasn't in it anymore. And it's like, you are just gonna shoulder your cross for forever to run a D&D game that you're not enjoying anymore? Yeah. So I finally was like, I'm done. And I told them why. So my advice for you, I don't know, that might be a course for you. It might be something to consider. You know, so here's the thing. Before I would do that, I would try to understand why you weren't having fun. You know, what's causing the lack of fun? Why am I not enjoying it? It could just be simply you're running too many games and it's just too much on you. You know, maybe it's the type of game that you're running. Maybe it's the campaign that you're running. I don't know. Try to figure out why it is that you're not having fun and see if, like, in here and in here, there's a way to remedy that and to recapture that love and that fun, if there's a way to do it. If you can, if through some introspection you can revitalize that fun and love of running the game, then your problem is solved and you're having fun again. But if you can't, then maybe it's time to just pause that game and step away from that and continue playing in the other ones where you are having fun. That might be the right thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you're not having fun and it's not enjoyable for you, you don't have to keep on running that game. That I know that sense of obligation. I spoke about that. There are other players at that table. One of them, you might just say, hey guys, I need to take a break for a while. Let's have one of you be the dungeon master. Like, the game doesn't have to stop. One of you could be the dungeon master and keep on running it for people. And you may or may not be a player, up to you, you know, but it doesn't have to be you doing it. You know, somebody else could do it. So there are some things for you to consider there, you know, but there's nothing wrong with just stepping down and saying, hey guys, my heart's not in it. I'm not having fun anymore. I really don't want to do this anymore. I feel bad, but this is what it is. So I'm sorry. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, you know. So if that's what you got to do, you can do that, you know. So that's my advice, based on very recent personal experience of that. So my games are now down from 4 to 3. Now I'm running 3 D&D games now. Is it 3? Yeah, 3. So there you go. I hope that helps, dude. All right, and I'm gonna write that one down. That's a pretty good one. Might put that on YouTube. We'll scroll. Oh, you can still play in person through the pandemic? Oh, that's cool. You play with your nephews? Oh, that's fun, dude. Very nice. Need a second cat cam. Oh yeah, my cats, what are they doing? They're playing with the laser pointer. Who is that? That's mommy. That's mommy cat. She's so adorable when she's running after the laser pointer. She's so adorable. She's the oldest cat we have. She's not super old, but she's getting up there. And it's so adorable to see her running after the laser pointer. Oh, there, who was that? Oh, that was Orange. I don't think I've ever seen Orange running after the laser pointer before. Oh, he is so getting into it. I wish I had a camera that pointed there. Oh man. It's so awesome. Orange is so adorable. He is so adorable. Oh, that reminds me, we have a giveaway going on. We're giving away tactical tokens tonight, so go sign up for that giveaway. Link in the chat. Thank you, moderators. And there's probably gonna be about 5 links as everybody spams it. Oh, there you go. Go sign up for that stuff. It's good. And we're gonna draw the winner on Friday's stream. Luke, what are your personal DM pet peeves? Arguing with me after I've given a ruling. Side conversations. No call, no shows. Where you just don't show up to a game and don't tell me you're not going to be there. Like, if something comes up, okay, just let me know, but not coming. Those are the big things. Those are the big things, I think. Yeah, those are the big things. Tactical token that says win me. I think those are my biggest pet peeves, and the arguing with me thing, the rules discussion thing is hands down the biggest one. Hands down. That's the thing that's going to get me really fired up and upset with someone. It's like, I will listen to your side of it. I will listen to you, and then we'll have a conversation, but once I make a ruling, I expect to move on and not dwell on it. And a lot of times I rule in favor of my players. I'm not like, I don't fancy myself an unreasonable idiot, who has to have it my way. You can convince me with a reasonable, rational argument, that makes sense, that isn't based upon metagaming or power gaming, but once I make a ruling, even if you think I'm wrong, let it go and let's move on, because arguing about it is not, nobody's having fun while we're arguing about rules. How do you handle an absent player? One of my players can't make it next time and wants to stay behind. Problem is, he left the scene in a way that an ambush is most likely. I don't want to kill a player over that, especially if they're absent. So generally speaking, I respect my players' desires about whether they want their character to be present in a game session or not, if they are not present. So like, my Sword Coast Guard group, my Curse of Strahd group, we have an understanding. Our social contract is basically, if you can't make a game session, somebody else will run your character. And we're all good with that. For my Ancient Dragon group, we have a different understanding. If a player can't make a game session, their character is not there. And they're just gone. And so I establish what happens when somebody is absent with the players up front. And we come to an understanding of how we as a group want to handle that. And so for my Ancient Dragon group, when a player's not there, tentacles come out of the ground, grab their character, and drag them away into the oblivion. And then they're gone. And when the next game session comes along and that player is there again, the chasm opens up and tentacles swarm about, and the character is deposited there in a pile of and slime and goo, and they wipe themselves off and they're back with the group again. And then tentacles withdraw back into the schism and it closes behind the tentacles, So we have this ongoing motif of tentacles that come and grab people and then return them when the player is back. And it's essentially a hand wave with a funny mechanic is all it is. But my preference as a dungeon master, honestly, is when a player is gone, somebody else can run their character, as long as the players are all comfortable with that. If they're not, well, then then you do what the players are comfortable with, But what you do not do, ladies and gentlemen, is fall into the scheduling spiral of death, which is when a player can't make it, you reschedule the game session. And when they can't make it, you reschedule the game session, and then you reschedule the game session, and then you reschedule the game session, and eventually you never even play D&D. That's the scheduling spiral of death. I don't do that. I don't reschedule game sessions. The basic rule that I have is there are 5 players. If one person can't make the game, we play D&D. If 2 people can't make the game, we play D&D. If 3 people can't make the game, we do not have critical mass and the game is canceled. Nobody plays D&D. We have a reoccurring schedule every 2 weeks and we play. If you can't make it, you can't make it. And we're going to play the game anyway. And that's just the way we do it. And lo and behold, wouldn't you believe it? Attendance is always very high and players don't miss very often. That's probably due to a variety of reasons. I think you have a couple things going on. There is a psychological bit of encouragement that happens when you know that the game is going to happen whether you're there or not. Psychologically, you are encouraged to get your butt in that seat because you don't want to miss anything. So you find yourself doing things like rearranging your activities, at home, rearranging when date night is and stuff so that you can go to D&D, getting the different shifts at work so that you can make the D&D game, swapping shifts with somebody else so that you can make the D&D game. When you know that the game is going to happen, you go to extra efforts to try to be there if you actually want to be there. That's the first thing. The second thing that happens too that I think some folks don't take into consideration is that many times when somebody can't make a game session or something comes up, they might actually just be giving you a nice social excuse to not be there because they just kind of don't want to be there. And so do you really want to reschedule the game or cancel the game because somebody is giving you a socially acceptable excuse not to come because they really don't want to be there? No, you don't want to do that. And the other thing too, you go play with your friends because they just don't want to be there. People do that all the time. Like who's gonna literally say, hey, I don't feel like playing tomorrow, I'm just not gonna be there, or I wasn't having fun, so I'm not in the mood. Who actually literally tells you that? Nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you that I would rather be playing Apex Legends instead of playing D&D, and so I'm just not going to come tomorrow. Nobody says that. They say I have to work or blah 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 whatever. I got to do the laundry. I don't know. They're going to give you some excuse. They're not going to tell you the actual truth. So anyway, that's tangent. I had another thought on that too as well. Crap. They don't actually, so they don't want to be there. There's a psychological thing. They don't actually want to be there. There's another reason too for not like rescheduling and stuff like that. I forget what it was. I have a video, a really old video that I go over all of these things. So anyway, whatever. I literally skipped D&D to play Apex. Look at it. You see? Well done, Blue Bob man. Hey, Megan, what's up? How you doing? That's flavored neon. All right. What would you suggest for 4 players? We got 4 players. 1 person doesn't show up, we play D&D. 2 people don't show up, we really should have 5 players in the group. You could still play with 2 players. I've played games before with 2 players. It's not that big of a deal. But having 5 players my decision to have 5 players in my groups as a general rule is a very strategic one. It is done with very, very good purpose. 1, I can easily run a game for 5 players and not a problem. However, in all honesty, 4 players is my personal favorite choice for the number of players to have in a game. 4 players is perfect. You don't have too many people competing for attention, and they're able to keep playing enough and take turns so that nobody really gets bored. When you have too many people get bored, side conversations, phones, blah, 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 whatever. It's hard running a group of lots of people. So 4 is my personal favorite choice, but 4 doesn't handle absences very well because once 1 person is gone, you're down to 3. And then when 2 people are gone, you only got 2. And I don't like games with just 2 people too much. I think 3 can work okay. 4 is the best. So the main reason I have 5 people is it handles absences very well. If someone can't make it, it's not a big deal, and we can still play perfectly happy with 4. If 2 can't make it, it's like, not my preference, but okay. So that's the big reason I have 5. It handles absences very well. All right, so there's my thing about handling absences for you. What do you do about players who are over enthusiastic? For example, I have a player that constantly wants to be under the spotlight for knows how to better roleplay a character. So that is a problematic behavior, right? So it needs to be addressed. In that particular instance, I almost feel like I would probably try to use that person's enthusiasm to your benefit. Like somebody who's enthusiastic and really into things, you know, they have lots of energy and they want to do stuff and participate. So try to, if you can, try to redirect their enthusiasm in ways that are more beneficial for the group as a whole. For instance, you might pull them aside and say, hey, dude, you know what? I love your enthusiasm for the group, dude. You're killing it. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. You know, some of the other people aren't quite as involved and stuff in the game, and maybe you could help me, you know, get them more involved in the game and find ways to draw them in and let them get in the spotlight and stuff like that. And if you can enlist some of these super enthusiastic people to like help you run the game and stuff like that, you might be able to just get them in your corner, and then they're working on your behalf and they're looking for ways to, let me talk to this character over here who this player is running and try to pull them into the game and stuff like that. So you might be able to redirect their enthusiasm in more productive ways than the negative ways. So it might be more beneficial, instead of trying to like stomp down on their enthusiasm, redirect it in positive ways, if that makes sense a little bit. It's very generic. It's kind of a vague, not very specific example, but there you go. I usually don't like vague answers. Yeah, I don't know what that one was. All right. What are your thoughts on players with protagonist syndrome who take over other people's roles or role playing because it makes sense for them to do so, even when they literally have no reason to? They're taking over other people's... Are they taking over their characters? Or they're taking over their roles? So you have somebody who, okay, so maybe you have a thief in the group whose role kind of is maybe to sneak ahead and scout things out, disarm traps and stuff. And then you have somebody who is not necessarily super skilled in that, but they always want to go do it instead. And they're kind of like stealing the spotlight away from the thief or the rogue when they could go do that thing. I think that's what you're asking. And if that's what they're doing, then I think it's just a conversation. You say, hey, dude, like, and it might be a conversation apart from the group, but you know, it's the same conversation as you usually would have. You know, you're basically, you're stealing the spotlight from other people. You know, when somebody else has a moment to shine, you tend to swoop in and you take that away from them. So this situation here, the rogue could have gone ahead and scouted and done these things, but instead you went and did it, and then they didn't have anything to do, you know. And here was a social interaction where there was an opportunity to sweet talk somebody, and the bard would have been the great choice for that. But instead, you, the barbarian, went over there and tried to do it and screwed it all up. And then and so basically you're sweeping, you're coming in and you're stealing people's spotlights, and you're not allowing them to participate in the game. And so you just had that conversation and you ask them to, the request is to let other people participate in the game too. You might just have to be super blunt with it. I mean, my tendency is always to be blunt before I am beating around the bush. I will directly lay that out before the person and specifically ask them, please let other people participate in the game and have their moments too. Like, everything can't be revolving around your character, because other players have the right to have fun and participate in the game as well. So that's probably what I would do. After a player leaves the group permanently, causing a problem with the story, should you try to continue with the current game you're playing, or restart or play a different campaign? Screw the story. I'm playing a game. I don't care about this. I mean, I care about the story, but I don't care that much. Like, come on, man. You know, it's like, I'm going to fix it. Who am I? I'm the dungeon master. What sort of power and influence do I hold in the game? Complete and total. So that means, oh, mommy 2 is here. Hello, mommy. She's so adorable. Which means that the story is not a problem for me. I can fix that. I can put a band-aid on that. I can change that however I need to. I can have that player's character become an NPC that I now control that keeps that story flowing. There's any number of ways that I can solve that. A player leaving the group is not a problem for the story at all, because I can do whatever I need to do to fix that up and band-aid that up. And so if I'm enjoying things and the players are enjoying things about that current campaign and that story, I'm gonna fix whatever I need to fix to keep it going. I'm not gonna, restart the game or play a different campaign because a player leaves. Nah, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Nah, not just because a player's leaving. I'm not gonna let a player leaving ruin our fun. I'm gonna fix things however I need to so that our fun can keep on going. Bye, Foxbolt. Goliath Cleric. I thought Luke was going to go full on genie with that. How much power do I have? Phenomenal cosmic power. Nice. An Ace of Base reference? I don't even know what Ace of Base is, so probably not. Can we count this as a rant? Yeah, kind of. It's a mini rant, sure. Why does the stream keep crashing when my question gets answered? I don't know. That's really bad luck is what that is, dude. All right, I think we're going to do a cat strike. I think somebody redeemed a cat strike. Didn't we have a cat strike redemption? Yes. Oh, cat trip. A cat trip. We're gonna do a cat trip. Aaron All redeemed a cat trip, so we'll do a cat trip, and then I have been tasked with ranting about DMPCs. So I'm gonna get myself all worked up, and we're gonna try to do a rant here. Yeah. I'm actually kind of starting to get tired, so I don't know, man. I might not be at my best for this. I literally have a moderator command for the mug because people ask about it. Man. All right, cat trip. Let's do cat trip.
Woohoo! Mommy, what's going on? Mommy.
This is the cat trip. We are using legal addictive substances here on the little kitties. All right.
Mommy, I have your banana.
All right, so I have the banana and I have a mouse. And we're gonna get these guys all hopped up. All right. He's getting whacked. Squeaky got whacked. She's like, that's mine. You leave that alone. Do not touch my banana. That's why I have two of them. Do your kitties get zoomies? Oh, you have no idea. You're about to see. It's been a while. You all right, I'm gonna go bio, and I'll be back. Somebody let me know if Orange bites Squeaky again. He keeps biting Squeaky. Was Squeaky trying to stream again? I saw Squeaky in my chair. Was he trying to stream again? The Dragon Magazine PDFs. Where can you find those? Are those available somewhere? Somewhere that's not illegal. Don't say it if it's illegal. Don't encourage piracy. The Squeaky Layer. Oh, I know. The Dragon Plus app? The Internet Archive? Oh, I'm not familiar with that. It's illegal, is it? I mean, that was a TSR time, so TSR has copyright on it, which would have passed to Wizards and Hasbro, I'm assuming. So, but it's possible they offer it. I don't know, back stuff for free. Well, they're more they could probably sell it to on DM's Guild or something. We have cats. We have cats. That's all we have. That's the stream. The stream is the cats. Oh, anywhere you get them for free is illegal? Yeah, that probably is true. So pay for them. People work hard on that crap. They deserve to get paid for it. Says the guy who also publishes stuff, so I probably have a biased point of view. But it's the right point of view. So there you go. All right. That was our cat trip. And still tripping a little bit. Then put it out for sale where we can buy it. Yeah, that's if you don't want us to where'd my thing go? Do you know of a place to find maps to Sword Coast cities to use on virtual tabletops? I bought the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide hoping for some maps, but that was a waste of money. Oh, really? Yes, the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide is a hot flaming waste of money. It's so ridiculous. You guys, I swear to you, like, the more and more that I read the Eberron campaign setting book that they published, the more I love how they did the Eberron campaign setting for 5th edition. There are so many things that Wizards did right for the Eberron campaign setting. It just blows my mind how good of a book that is. And then you look at Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and you're just like, yeah. So yeah, that's a waste of money. Nobody should ever buy Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. The best way to get maps is probably do a Google search. I don't know any other way to get maps, you know, to use in your games and stuff. Yeah, you could pretty much everything in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, you could Google it, because there's the, what is it, the Forgotten Realms wiki would have all that stuff. Only the Forgotten Realms wiki is written in like past tense, and it's so weird. I don't know why they chose to write all of the articles in past tense. It just feels so awkward to read those articles in past tense. And they're not even talking about the past necessarily. They could be talking about a present day point in time for a Forgotten Realms city, and it's all in past tense. And I just don't understand why they chose, whoever is moderating and cultivating and curating that content over there, why they chose past tense blows my mind. It's so awkward. It's good information, but very awkward way to write that stuff. I'm glad someone else is saying how weird the past tense. It's so weird. It's so awkward and stupid. It's like you literally, somebody at the top there who's like the head curator of how that site gets put together made the decision that everything needs to be written in past tense. And man, that was a dumb decision. It's so dumb. Like, I don't know what they were smoking. That was a bad idea. It's so awkward. It's like writing a book in second person. It's so weird. Yes. Like if part of the article literally deals with the past, great, past tense, great, love it. It's history, fine. But when you're talking about the current state of the city or whatever it happens to be, use the present tense. It's not, this is writing 101, folks. Like, can we please? Sorry. It's some eccentric old wizard that only accepts past tense. It's somebody. It's either, this is my thoughts. Like, I'm just spitballing here. It's either somebody who is exceedingly eccentric, who wants it written that way for no discernible reason, or it's somebody whose first language isn't English and they're the one in charge and they're just like, it's gotta be past tense because this is how we do it in my mother tongue. I don't know. There's something weird going on there. I don't know why you would make that decision, you know? Just so weird. She lost her mouse. I had to get her mouse for her. All right, so I got that question. Desireel says, I have a player who has played with us for years, but has now missed 8 sessions. I feel bad kicking him, but I have someone new who wants to join. Any advice? Yeah. Ask him, what's going on, dude? Why are you missing sessions? Are you gonna come back or are you done? So give him the benefit of the doubt, ask him first. And I mean, if he doesn't respond and he's just like, he's totally just like no response, you don't know what the heck's going on, then why would you hold a spot open for somebody who's not playing the game? I would give him the benefit of the doubt. Like 8 years, you don't just throw that away. Try to talk with him, try to figure out what the heck's going on. You know, are you no longer interested? Do you want to take a break? We need to talk about this because like, yeah. But at the end of the day, if he's not responding to you or he's like, I'm not really interested or life is getting busy and stuff, then, you know, like I am not going to hold a spot open for somebody who's not going to come to the game. I'm not, especially if I have somebody who wants to play. Person's going to come play. And the other guy is like, look at, you know, whatever reason, blah, 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 appreciative and stuff like that, you know, and if things ever get better for you and you want to play again, we'll figure something out. We can talk about it. You know what I mean? But like, I can't hold a slot open for you when I have other people who want to play. I just can't. So yeah. I would phrase it less as kicking them and more as talking with them and coming to an agreed upon solution, which probably involves they're not playing anymore unless they're willing to commit. Maybe they're going through a bad spell and they're willing to commit to coming back again. You know, it's possible. Don't tag Luke. Who's tagging me? Oh, I don't know the answer to that question. What are some tips you can give a DM to get her group to roleplay more? They always say they really want to, but when the time comes, crickets. Are they playing the game? Because the entire game is role-playing. If they're playing the game, then they're doing great. If they're playing the game, then they're role-playing. So are we increasing the length of the game sessions more to make more role-playing opportunities? So it's possible what you're referencing by role-playing is social interactions or talking in character. And if that's what you actually mean, then I don't feel like that is something that I would try to force my players to do. I would give them the opportunity to talk in character. I would give them the opportunity for social interactions, but I'm not going to force that part of the game on them. They might not want to do it. You know, there's nothing wrong with not engaging with that particular part of the game. Like, as a player, I love combat. I love social interactions. I do not like exploration. I hate exploration. My buddy Joe, who's in my Curse of Strahd game, loves exploration. Great. I don't like it. So when I'm in a game, I am not going to engage with exploration. I am going to sit back and be quiet and let other people do the exploring parts. And then when there's a combat, giddy up. When there's a social interaction, somebody that I can talk to, giddy up, let's go. But the exploration parts, I don't care. And in all honesty, if I had a dungeon master, if my dungeon master came and was like, Luke, you know, you really should try to engage more with the exploration parts of the game, I would just be like, dude, I don't like that. I don't want to, you know? And if they tried to push it on me, I would just be like, I don't want to. I don't care. Leave me alone. I'm having fun with the other stuff. So it's okay for players not to engage with certain parts of the game. Like if they're there and they're having fun with certain parts of it, they don't have to engage with everything. That's okay. There are different types of players, different personality types, different things they like, preferences, all that stuff. We're very varied human beings. We have different things we like and don't like, you know? So I wouldn't try to pressure that people. Now, if they're saying we want more social interactions, we want more opportunities as a speaking character, well, then you give them the opportunities. But if they don't seize a hold of them, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, it's a game. We're there to have fun. It's not like this is our job and I'm your boss and you have to do what I say or I fire you. You know what I mean? There's only so much you can do. Like you meet the players halfway. If they don't come the rest of the way, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? You can set an example. You can try to speak in character. You know, you can be the force that shows them social interaction scenes and stuff. But at the end of the day, if they don't take steps to do things themselves, like there's not a whole lot you can do. You're not going to force them to do it. It's a game. We're here to have fun, not have somebody be like, thou shalt roar, you know, so. Be the river for your people. I don't want them drinking me. That's too much like vampirism. What are your thoughts on a 3-week on, 1 week off schedule framework? Dude, if it works for you and your players and you all like the idea, do it. There's nothing inherently good or bad about that. If it works for your group and you all like it, then rock on. How would you go about spicing up combat in a world with limited creatures to use, such as a modern day zombie apocalypse world? Make new creatures. That's my first thing I would do. The other thing too is that when this lies a little bit or a lot out of my realm of expertise. So take what I say with a grain of salt, because I don't run zombie apocalypse games, and neither do I run games where there isn't a wide variety of creatures to choose from. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with this, but my first inclination would be to create more creatures, even if it's variations on zombies or different types of zombies they start to encounter. And then as they're going through the game and they're exploring this game world, they learn, oh, zombies, whatever. But then every so often there's a different type of zombie and they're just like, holy crap, what's going on? What caused this and why? And where did it come from? And, you know, it causes something interesting and unique that they got to then go and figure and discover and stuff. So introducing new types of creatures, new types of zombies might be a thing you could do. It's kind of like in, what is it? There's a, what is the name of that? There's a movie series. There's movies that were produced based on a zombie apocalypse. It's the really famous one. They made movies about it. What is it? It's got Raccoon City in it. Somebody knows. What's the name of it? Come on, I'm blanking. Resident Evil. Thank you, Resident Evil. So if you watch the Resident Evil movies, which are not very good, the first one I thought was actually fairly good, but as the Resident Evil movies progressed, they got very, very bad very fast. But what you saw in that movie series is different types of zombies. The corporation was experimenting and making different types of zombies, and so you got fast ones and stuff, you know. The movies are really bad. I thought that the first Resident Evil was passable. I kind of thought it was okay. It appealed to me a little bit, you know. But then they got really bad really fast. Yeah. So it was. I feel like what broke it for me was the suspension of disbelief. The first movie, I was like, oh, okay, all right, I can buy it. But then the suspension of, it's the same problem with Lord of the Rings versus the Hobbit trilogy. Somehow they took a little book and turned it into a trilogy. They know how to make money. Anyway, it's the same thing. Lord of the Rings was amazing, engrossed. That game, that world was amazing. I believed it. My belief was suspended. I was all in. The Hobbit broke suspension of disbelief at every turn and was just a hot flaming mess. It's really bad. Mostly with how they portrayed the dwarves. Let's just make the dwarves into comedic. It's a comedic thing. Let's make everybody laugh at the dwarves. Oh gosh, they just destroyed it. They just destroyed it. It was the director, I would imagine. Isn't that the person that makes those decisions and how they're gonna portray stuff like that? Oh jeez. All right. Did I answer that question? The other way to, you're talking about spicing up combat. I mean, the other way to spice up combat is the situations and stuff. If you only have one creature to use, then you have to, the combat itself has to be unique. Something about the terrain or the situation or the goals of the combat. You know, you'd have to get creative and come up with different things. You know, if you only have one creature to use. I don't know, but that, like, again, that lies outside my realm of expertise. I feel I don't usually have to deal with that. What are your thoughts on today's Unearthed Arcana? You mean like literally today? Are you talking about an Unearthed Arcana that came out today? I mean, I don't read the Unearthed Arcana really. New races? Oh, they came out with a new races one? Did they really? Okay, hold on a second. Let's just look at it. Unearthed Arcana. New races. Let's see what we get. Where is it? Gothic lineages? Is this the one? Oh, this is the one, right? Looks like this is it. Gothic lineages, creating a character, creature type, languages. So this is like a different creature? Yep. So you got an undead or something? A hag? A hexblood? Ooh, a hag. That sounds interesting. A reborn. Ooh, come back from the dead or something. Sounds interesting. I don't know. Devil's in the details, though. The devil is always in the details, but at first glance, it looks interesting. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Oh, wow. How long do you need to plan a sandbox campaign? I don't know. Depends on how you define and run a sandbox campaign. It could take you a lot of time to plan a sandbox campaign. Or if you're very good at and heavy on improvisation, it might not take you that long at all. I don't know. For me, because of the amount of prep work that I do and I like to do and I enjoy doing for my games, it would take me a long time to plan and design a sandbox campaign. All right, we should probably do our rant, I feel, before the stream's over and I totally run out of steam. I'm planning on finally doing a video about sandbox and railroad in March. It's one of my March is it my March video? Yeah, it's one of my March videos. I'm finally going to talk about sandbox versus railroad. And I'm not just going to give a long, eloquent example. I'm gonna give useful advice about it. Run out of steam on a stream. Yeah. All right, we should do this. All right, we're gonna be ranting tonight. All right, I have notes too. I see that jab. Yeah, you do, don't you? All right. So, the topic of tonight's rant, and we'll see what justice I can do to this, because somebody paid 10,000 channel points for this rant. The topic of tonight's rant is DMPCs. That acronym stands for Dungeon Master Player Characters. Now, before we get too far into this rant, I feel that we first probably need to define our terms here. So what do we mean by DMPC? And what distinguishes a DMPC from an NPC or a hireling or something along those lines? So this is how I define the distinction. Generally speaking, a DMPC is when a dungeon master literally creates a character sheet. Let's pretend that it's a monk. It is a half-elf monk. They literally create a character sheet for this character, and the dungeon master's intention is to play that character in the game because they also want to be a player in the game. They want to both be dungeon master and player. Therefore, they create a character sheet for this half-elf monk, and they're a player as well as the dungeon master. That is how I define a DMPC, a dungeon master who wants to be a player as well as a dungeon master. Whereas an NPC that travels with the group and helps them from time to time, or a hireling that is with the group and helps them, the NPC or hireling might still be under the dungeon master's control, but their motivation is different. They don't actually want to also be a player in the game and run an entire character sheet. There might be a variety of motivations for having an NPC or a hireling be with the group. The group might be, they might need a little bit of help. You might be running an Acquisitions Incorporated type of game where they have an intern who is a hireling. You might have, there might be a special quest that the group is going on where an NPC as part of the quest is going to go with them for whatever reason. And the dungeon master could have a variety of reasons for having hirelings and NPCs, which are perfectly fine and legitimate and have nothing to do with the fact that the dungeon master also wants to be a player. It's simply a game mechanic that is a part of the game, but it is not, the motivation is completely different from, hello, I want to be a player too, to, hey, this is a game mechanic, there's an NPC going with you for a little bit, or there's a hireling because you guys need extra help, or we're using Ac Inc or something like that. So there is a difference between the two, and the difference hinges upon the dungeon master's motivation primarily, and why that DMPC is there, or why that NPC or hireling is there. So that is the distinction I draw between the two things. So that's the first part, defining terms. Now the one, NPCs or hirelings that adventure with the party, where you have a dungeon master who is not invested in those characters really from like, you know, they're my character point of view, but just like, hey, this is a story element, this is a game element, something that's happening. Whereas the DMPC, the dungeon master actually wants to be a player in that game. And that's a problem. And we see there's a variety of reasons that dungeon master PC is a problem. And the root cause is the dungeon master's motivation, and there's a lot of stuff going into that. So we're gonna unpack this a little bit and talk about this. First of all, the first thing that happens, there are lots of things I'm gonna go over here. The first thing, we're just gonna kind of plop them through here in order. The first thing is that it can bog the game down. There is a reason that the monster manual has stat blocks. The reason is that when you as a dungeon master are running monsters in a combat, stat blocks streamline things for you and make it easier for you to run that creature in a combat. Character sheets are large, complex ordeals compared to stat blocks and take a lot more effort and time to run in a combat. This is why, as a dungeon master, I can run 3 different monster types in a combat and go boom, 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 and do it pretty quickly and efficiently. Whereas my players might take some time to figure out what the heck they're gonna do on any given turn. It's much more complex to run a full-blown character sheet than it is to run stat blocks. So that's the first thing that you have happen that you'll notice when a dungeon master also wants to be a player in the game and be a DMPC. They're running an entire character sheet. Now, and whereas with a player, they get their entire turn and everybody else's turn to think about what they're going to do, the dungeon master is adjudicating things on everybody else's turn. And then when it's their turn, they have to run the monsters, and they also got to run their DMPC over here. So it can bog the game down. So that's one reason. That's probably a minor reason or a major reason, depending on your point of view on things. Next thing, the next big thing that you see happening is that a lot of times you will find that this DMPC is stealing the spotlight from the other players at the table. many times the Dungeon Master is going to have bias and favoritism toward this character because it's their character. And so you might find yourself in a situation where that monk, that DMPC monk, well, guess what? There just happens to be a whole lot of magic items dropping in the game that are perfect for that Dungeon Master's PC. Because the Dungeon Master gets to play both sides. I create the adventures, I drop the magic items, I have this PC, I want to make sure my PC gets cool stuff. So they get inherent favoritism toward that PC. They're playing both sides, so they just drive things through there. Their DMPC many times can be overpowered and overbearing, and so it pulls the spotlight away from the other players. So instead of the other players saving the day, doing the cool thing, defeating the villain, it might be the DMPC who saves the day, who defeats the villain. Because the Dungeon Master designed the adventures and knows all the information, it might just be the DMPC who has that important piece of information to move the story along. It might just be the DMPC interacting with the villain who convinces the villain to stand down and then wins it. How awkward is that? How awkward would that be to have a Dungeon Master who's playing both sides, kind of playing the game with themselves a little bit, potentially, and the players are just observing and watching this? Like, it doesn't work too smooth in many cases, in my opinion, when you have a Dungeon Master who's trying to also be the player. Like, there's so many awkward interactions here, favoritism, bias, stealing spotlight, making your DMPC overpowered, giving them magic items. There's a whole wide variety of pitfalls that one might fall in. So we've addressed that. We've addressed the unfair loot that the DMPC might often get. Plot armor. DMPCs might have plot armor because this is the Dungeon Master's darling. Well, they just don't die. The villains might not target them. The villains might target somebody else. Again, we're kind of coming back to favoritism and stuff like that, but plot armor is a thing. What else do we have? Metagaming. How easy is it for the Dungeon Master to metagame? They know the adventure, they know the villain's weaknesses, and so how easy would it be for them to metagame as they're running their DMPC and just happening to know that villain's secret weakness as they attack them, and again, steal the spotlight and stuff like that. All right, what else? Railroading and leash. They could easily be using that DMPC to draw the players down a certain road, to railroad them in a certain direction. So that's another problem we have inherent with the DMPC. At the end of the day, what you find though too is there is an inherent conflict of interest that you have when a Dungeon Master wants to also be a player in the game. They're playing both sides of it. So you have this conflict of interest. The monsters, the creatures, the enemies, they want to win. And the Dungeon Master should be playing them to win. Nobody wants to lose. Some people might want to be losers, but most people want to win. And if you're in combat and if your life is on the line, you want to win. So when you have the monsters who want to win, but you also are invested in your DMPC because you also want to be a player, well, then there's an inherent conflict of interest. Like, how well are you going to play those monsters? And how well are you going to play your DMPC? And which one are you going to show more favoritism to? And how well are you going to do it? So there's this conflict of interest there when you're playing both sides of the table. So there's a whole big problem there, which admittedly, many of these pitfalls that I mentioned for DMPCs could also transfer to NPCs and hirelings. For instance, stealing the spotlight, railroading, plot armor. It's possible that NPCs or hirelings could also fall into some of those pitfalls as well. So yes, when you're running NPCs or hirelings, then you also want to be careful of those things as well. But I feel like there's a far greater tendency to have some of these problems happen when it's a DMPC, because you're far, generally speaking, you're far more invested in a DMPC than you are in an NPC that's there for a little bit, or a hireling that's going along with the group. And so I feel like the pitfall, you're probably more likely to go with it with a DMPC. So there's a bunch of reasons there that usually DMPCs don't work so well. I feel the big distinction is just the motivation of the Dungeon Master. That instead of wanting to be the DM, they're also trying to be a player, and it often doesn't work out too well. Now, am not above this pitfall. I did have a DMPC several years ago, and I did it. I'm not above that. I've done it before. I also was excited to play a character, and I was like, oh, I can do both, and it did not work too well. I've learned better now. And in all honesty, I actually do not like playing the other side. I only want to run the bad guys, the monsters, the NPCs that are on the bad guys side. My preference is that my players would run all of the good guys. If there's a hireling, then I would rather my players run that hireling. That's my preference. I don't like running the hirelings in combat. If there's an NPC, I'd rather they run them in combat. It's my preference. I want to play the one side, the bad guys. So that's just like my personal preference. I don't always get what I want, but it's my preference to do that. So there's a bunch of reasons there that I don't like the NPCs. There's pitfalls there. There's bad things that can happen. There's probably more reasons and stuff like that. I'm not smart enough to have them all. So, just leave comments below if there are other problems with DMPCs. I don't know how ranty that was, but I gave a speech. Oh, thank you. Somebody already put it there. Whee! Yay. Thank you. Thank you for putting the timestamp there, moderator. I appreciate that. Oh, little guy wants attention. Little guy, give me some coffee. You guys want to see little guy?
Little guy. Little guy. Come here, little guy. He's my adorable one. Oh, he's a little guy.
Yeah, this is little guy.
He's a little guy.
He's like, I don't like being manhandled.
He's adorable.
You say hi to everybody. Little guy. He's like, I'm being manhandled. Put me down.
He's a little guy.
He's like the skinniest cat we have. He's like a beanpole compared to our other cats. Oh, Ed, do you like little guy? Oh, he's gonna roll. Little guy, you gonna roll? Oh, he's just gonna show us his butt. He likes to roll on the ground. That's the catnip too, so he'll probably end up rolling there. He's your favorite? Sweet. He's adorable. I mean, they're all adorable, but I always forget NPCs in combat. Zachary, dude, I do the same thing. I asked my Ancient Dragon players. They have a hireling. Her name is Cookie, and I will always forget to roll initiative for Cookie. And sometimes we do combats, and like 2 rounds will go by, and then one of my players will be like, "Hey, Luke, what's Cookie been doing this whole time?" And I'm just like, I forgot to roll initiative for her. In my Ancient Dragon campaign, I actually run the hireling. I'd rather not, but it's just fallen to me. So a lot of times I'll forget. You're totally right, Barda Bear. Yeah. The best rants come naturally. The artificial ones are harder. I feel like that was less of a rant and more of just me talking about it. I'm still counting it though. I'm still taking your channel points. Flying Potato, I'm still taking your channel points. I did my best. What race is Cookie? Cookie is a half-orc. She is a half-orc druid of Shantaea. Yeah. Half-orcs do not combine well with druids, which is fine. I don't care. But she is a half-orc druid of Shantaea. What tools do you use to avoid featureless flat plains during combat encounters? Just various types of terrain. Here's the thing, if you're running location-based adventures in dungeons, castles, or whatever, then a lot of times just the simple fact of having corridors and rooms and things in those rooms like furniture, beds, dressers, and stuff like that. Got cat hair in my mouth. Imagine that. If you're running location-based adventures, then many times the fact that you have those elements going on solves many of your problems, because you have corners, you have corridors, you have doors, you have furniture, you have different things there. Different things are going on. that add spice and variety there, and that the players could interact with if they wanted to. You know, they could close the door and then tip the dresser over in front of the door to provide a barrier. They could jump up on the bed. They could flip the bed up as cover against arrows or something. They could totally do these things. They could absolutely 100% do these things. And that gives that extra dimension to the combat. So a lot of times, as long as you do, if you have a location-based adventure, you don't have to do a whole bunch of extra work because there's already a lot of stuff there that can already be used. So that's the first thing, you know, just rooms, walls, and things inside the rooms are going to get you a lot of benefit right off the bat. And then you can start thinking of different things like, let's have a balcony. Let's have a balcony that overlooks a lower area. And you might be able to get pushed off that balcony. A lot of times when I'm designing underground areas like cave complexes, I will have fissures, crevasses that open up and they go down to who knows where. I'll have a river, I'll have a lake, I'll have different elements like that. I'll have stalagmites, I'll have stalactites. I'll have different elevations. Like here, this part is lower, this is higher, this is even higher. All of these types of elements and stuff are just things you put into the design of a location-based adventure. And then it adds that extra dimension, that extra element of interesting aspects to the combats and to the adventures as a whole as well. So just a bunch of different things you can do to make combats more interesting in those sorts of areas. How do you deal with forgetting to attack with enemies? 4 skeletons are fighting the party. You attack as 2 of them and forget to attack with the remaining 2. I've totally done that before. In this case, you could just split them into 2 groups ad hoc and just have the other 2 attack when you remember to do them. It's not that big of a deal. You could have split them into 2 groups to begin with and had 2 of them go at one point and 2 of them go at the other point. When you remember, just have them go. It's not that big of a deal. In that case, I would just probably do something like that. You know, sometimes though, I might, when I remember, I might just be like, whatever. I'll tell my players, I'll be like, hey guys, I forgot to have this guy go. Lucky you. Well, now let's keep going. And then we'll laugh about it. So I can go either way. Let's do this. We had some subs here. I want to thank folks. Gin Mix Matt, thank you for the Prime. Really appreciate that. Mr. Giant Asian 67, tier 3. Wow, thank you so much, dude. Tier 3 is like the big kahuna of subs. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Also gifting subs. Holy crap, he's going crazy over here. Mr. Giant Asian has gifted 4 subs. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that. So tier 3 and then gifting subs. Very, very cool, man. Oh, Eric, what's up, dude? Like the shirt? Yeah, this is my Star Wars Lion King shirt. This is one of my favorite shirts. I like this shirt too. It's very cool. Hannah, what's up? Good to see you. I'm out of coffee. This is a problem. It's a sad, sad cup. I'm glad Danny's not here. She would be very disappointed in me. Have we plugged the merch yet? Adroit Conceptions has redeemed Make Luke talking character. Okay, so he wants me to talking character as the barbarian. All right, I'm gonna do a tongue twister for you all. I want you guys to know that I am a very eloquent speaker, and I am now going to perform for you a very difficult tongue twister. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Ha 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 ha. You think I could do it? How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? That's 2 times. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? You gave me the simplest, easiest tongue twister of all, sir, and I am happy to have defeated your challenge with flying colors. I am now level 20, and I have raided your village and slaughtered all of your townsfolk. Thank you. I am disappointed. I have been posting coffee warnings that were ignored. That's awesome. You guys might not know this, but I am very good at pronouncing things. That actually was a tongue twister that my dad taught my brother and me, like when we were little kids. So we grew up saying that tongue twister. So I'm probably just exceptionally good at that one in particular, but I don't know. Roll deception, Luke. I don't have any dice. You just repeated the question multiple times. That's what it was. I was supposed to talk in character. Oh, did you actually want me to answer the question? Oh, you wanted me to answer the question. Oh, well, I was confused. I didn't understand the question. I thought you just wanted me to say a tongue twister. Okay, I apologize. Please accept my apology. I am now going to answer your question. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Well, that really depends on how big your woodchuck is. Did you know, sir, that some woodchucks are bigger than other woodchucks? And some woodchucks can chuck more wood than some woodchucks? You see, here's the thing. What you have to understand about woodchucks, my good sir, is that they have teeth. And sometimes their teeth are bigger than others. So I once knew a woodchuck who had these big, huge, massive teeth. And I'm gonna tell you what, he could chuck wood. He'd go into woods and he would chuck them. And you just have piles and piles and piles of chucked wood. I'm gonna tell you what, I don't know, raise your hand. Please comment below if you've ever seen chucked wood. Because I'm gonna tell you something. There's chucked wood and then there's chucked wood. And I'm gonna tell you what, this woodchuck that had the big teeth, he could really chuck the wood. And it was super chucked. It wasn't like the little bit of chuck, but it was like a big chuck. You know, so it was really good. So if a woodchuck could chuck wood, I think the real answer here is how big his teeth are. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you did not put in your question how big his teeth are. So unless you give me the required information to answer the question, I can't answer. You are trying to trick me. You can't trick me. I know everything there is to know about woodchucks and chucking wood. And I am not gonna fall for your trick question, sir. So you can just take your trick question and you can go somewhere else because I'm not gonna stand for it. No, I am too smart for you and you just try to trick me and no. So there, go chuck your wood somewhere else. There are no woodchucks for you. No woodchucks for you. Yeah. All right, there you go. Was that more of what you were looking for? But woodchucks can't chuck wood, Mr. Barbarian. Don't you dare say that! You never say that. You have never seen a woodchuck chuck wood. You have no first-hand experience to be able to make that determination, and I am deeply offended that you would assert that. I have seen many woodchucks chuck wood. And I have seen the one with the big teeth chuck a lot of wood. And you don't know. You're just saying that because you're a mean person. You're a bad person. I know my woodchucks and they can chuck wood. As soon as you say that about them. Bad person. We're gonna make the barbarian cry. The woodchucks. But they're beavers. No, they're not. Woodchucks are groundhogs, aren't they? I think that's what woodchucks are. If Chuck Wood has woodchuck, but woodchucks woodchuck wood, but what? Nix it! What? You're killing me, man. We need to put that. So where was that? That was at, hold on, how about 246 or something? Oh crap. Hey, moderators, I'm writing here. I'm writing. Woodchuck question as barbarian. Thank you. Anonymous Beaver. Somebody is called Anonymous Beaver. All right, sweet. All right, what are we doing? We got time for one more question. No right, only question. I answered that one. What is the best software or website to play D&D virtually with friends? Dude, the moment that I tell you what I think the best one is, you're gonna have 5 bajillion people being like, no, this one's better. Like, it's just personal preference. And the honest truth is, I've only ever used one site to play D&D virtually, and that's Roll20. So I really can't comment on the other ones in all honesty. It gets the job done. Sometimes I get very frustrated with it. But it gets the job done. And then Everybody comment below. Comment below about your personal favorite because like everybody has a personal favorite. I answered that one too. Oh, I answered that one too. Elisa Goose says, do you paint your face for the skits or does a family member of your family do it? Oh, I do it myself. I paint my left hand, I face palm, and then I paint in the rest of it. Takes me about 5 minutes or so to do that. It's not that big a deal. I literally face palm. I've heard lots of good things about Foundry VTT. Never used it though. All right, let's do it. We're out, we're done. We're gonna raid somebody. We have the giveaway going on. So if you did not sign up for the giveaway yet, go hop in there, sign up for the giveaway. We are going to draw the winner on Friday's live stream. So yeah, you can win some tactical tokens. These things are pretty sweet. And I'm gonna find somebody to raid now. And we're gonna go raid. Raid somebody. That was weird. I'm a weirdo. Browse. D&D. All right. Cool. Let's find somebody to raid. No, Simpaticos isn't on today. I don't see him there. All right. Who are we gonna raid? I could raid myself. Would raiding myself work? I don't think that would do any good. I think I've raided these guys before. Well, let's see if we can find somebody different to raid. I mean, all I can do is like look for an interesting picture. Usually it has people's faces in it. Dun, 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 dun. Raid someone with close to no views. Okay. We just went to the bottom here. These people are playing in person. Ooh. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. So we are at the bottom here with people very... Ooh, look at this one. There's a big cat! There's a big, huge cat on screen. Should we raid the cat? Dude, they have a picture of a cat. They have a picture of a cat. What a great guy Luke is. You don't know that from his YouTube. I know, I'm a big jerk. Raid the cat. Okay, we're gonna raid the cat. Magical Marker Stream. They're called Magical Marker Stream. Okay, here we go. Raid channel. Magical Marker Stream. Magical Marker. Their name is Magical Marker Stream. All right, guys, let's raid these people. They are live. They're showing up as live, which is good. So here we go. Have fun. Say hi to them. Give them some love. Give them some love. Something went wrong. Oh, no. Ah! It's not working. Oh, jeez. It's not working again. Either they're not accepting raids or raiding is broken today. This happened to me before, by the way. I was trying to raid people and it was broken. This is so horrible. Oh, here's one. Cherry Bomb. Oh, here's one. They have like 3 viewers. Let's do this one. Babbly Rabbit. Let's try that. If this doesn't work, then probably things are broken. Babbly Rabbit. Let's try these guys. Start raid. Oh, here we go. It's working. So the other one just wasn't accepting raiders. Here we go. We're in business. Yay! Let's go say hi to these people. Give them some love. And I will see you on Friday.
Goodbye now. Bye, 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 bye.